front that's coming in from the west. So we're expecting a lot more storms to sort of be developing.
The Education Secretary, Michael Gove, is expected to come under renewed pressure today in connection with the Trojan horse claims in Birmingham. The Shadow Education Secretary, Tristram Hunt, will accuse him of failing to act when he first heard the allegations that Islamic extremists were trying to influence teaching at schools in the city. Ofsted has been investigating 21 Birmingham schools and is due to publish its findings on Monday. 9 people have been arrested and 2 illegal tobacco processing plants discovered after raids in Wednesbury. It followed a customs investigation into the illegal supply of over 60 tonnes of tobacco. Lawyers are to be banned from offering cash or other incentives to persuade people to bring injury claims as part of a government crackdown on insurance fraud. Ministers say the cost of whiplash and other injuries is making insurance policies too expensive. More from our personal finance correspondent, Simon Gompertz.
At the moment, courts in England and Wales have the discretion to throw out claims from supposed accident victims who are believed to be trying it on. But now they'll be required to, unless that would cause substantial injustice, as part of the effort to bring down the cost of insurance. It doesn't just mean getting rid of bogus claims. Those that are grossly exaggerated will also be thrown out in full. Some lawyers advertise upfront cash or tablet computers such as iPads in an effort to entice people into making claims after a car accident or tripping on the road. That'll be banned.
A D-Day veteran who went missing from his Sussex care home to get to yesterday's commemorations in northern France is due back home this morning. Bernard Jordan, who's 90, decided to make his own way to Normandy when he realised he was too late to join an organised trip. He told ITV News that he was becoming quite a regular at the ceremonies.
It's a first-class show because I've been here last year and I've been here obviously this time, and I'm going to touch wood if I'm still with us, and I'll be 91 then, but if I'm still about, I should try it next few years as well.
So nothing's going to stop you, basically?
Oh, no.
The weather humid with thunderstorms and intense downpours of rain or hail. Drier and brighter this afternoon, although isolated heavy or thundery showers are still possible. The top temperature this afternoon, 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. Fresher tonight with lows of 11 Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
You should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself.
We are even more intelligent. They treated me with the utmost respect.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. Hands up who's enjoying the weather. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thunderstorms, heavy rain. It's cleansing for the soul, isn't it, guys? Lots coming up on the show today. Later on, we will be asking, does anybody really believe in horoscopes? You know, when they predict your future and your personality and your love life because Venus is going round Uranus? Really? No one buys into that nonsense, do they? Do they? We'll also be talking about CCTV. Is it a force for good or bad? It's been a busy few days for D-Day, hasn't it? There's lots of stories, lots of amazing coverage, and even cynical old me can't help but have been moved by some of the photos and some of the stories and some of the things that we've heard. We'll be talking about D-Day. We'll be talking to Lord Ashdown in a minute about a book he's written about D-Day. And if you've got any stories you want to share, then let me know. But also, there can't be anybody listening to this who thinks that there's been too much coverage of D-Day. Can there? Is that you? Lots of ways to get in touch. You can send me an email, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text WM. But the best way to get in touch, of course, is on the telephone, 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
You had a horrible moment there. You know when you're giving your phone number out to someone, okay, and maybe you met someone at a party or it's a work thing. They go, yeah, what's your phone number? And I couldn't remember the phone number. I can remember the phone number of the house I grew up in. 01753 57455. a number that's long since gone. I moved out of that house 30 years ago. I can remember that phone number. I can remember the first phone number, the first mobile phone that I've got. But I can barely remember the phone number of the place I work at. 03453 009956 is the phone number. Been an emotional day, well, in northern France and pretty much across Europe yesterday as royalty, politicians and veterans from across the world gathered to mark the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings. The Queen said it was a day filled with sorrow and regret and pride. A couple of questions. There can't be anybody listening to this who thinks there's been too much coverage, can there? Even grumpy old cynical me has been moved almost to tears with some of the stories and some of the photos we've seen. So I can't believe there's anybody listening who thinks there's been too much. If you do, I'd like to hear from you this morning. But also, with the situation in Europe, in Ukraine, with Russia, have we learnt anything? We've got the Ukraine, we've got Russia, we've got the rise of far-right political parties throughout Europe at the moment. Are we in danger of forgetting the lessons that we should be remembering? Well, as I said, Ukraine is on the brink of civil war, European Union dangerously split, all kinds of things going on. 03453 009956. First of all, though, I want to talk to the former leader of the Liberal Democrats, Lord Paddy Ashdown, who's got a new book, The Cruel Victory. It's about the French resistance during the Normandy landings. This is about D-Day, isn't it, Lord Ashdown? But it's a slightly different side of things, isn't it?
Paddy will do, Ian. I never used
Thank you very much.
I went into the ridiculous place to get rid of it. Yes, it is, but it's also about more than that. But, I mean, let's just put it straight into the D-Day context, if I may. At 10:15 on the night of the 5th of June, that is 2 nights ago, 70 years ago, not only were the Allied landing crafts lining up and crossing the channel to land on the beaches, but the BBC, who else? The BBC French service sent out 187 coded messages to French resistance hiding in the forests and the mountains right across France. They were all different. Il y a de l'eau dans le gaz was one, and Méfie-toi du toréador was another, but they all meant the same thing. They meant that D-Day is at dawn, your liberation is at hand, rise and fight, and they did. And that night, as the landing craft are lining up, and we're right to remember them, but wrong, I think, to forget the contribution that the French paid as well. Young men were lacing up their boots, and some older men and women, hitching up a rucksack, pulling the Sten gun down, hidden in the barn, saying goodbye to their wives and families, and walking out into the darkness, closing the front door behind them. The job was to persuade the Germans that there was the likelihood of a southern landing as well as a northern landing. 3 days before, at Southgate House in Portsmouth, Eisenhower, at his headquarters, was asked, what do you want the resistance to do? The original plan was they would rise just behind the Normandy beaches. But Eisenhower said, this is going to be such a tight-run thing that I want them to rise across France. And when he did that, took that decision. He knew perfectly well that he could not protect them if they came out of their cover in the south, and that the Germans would slaughter many of them. And my book is about one of those Maquisard units. It eventually ended up with the largest battle between the Maquisard, the resistance, and the Germans in Western Europe. 4,000 Maquisard on the mountain plateau of the Vercors above Grenoble fighting 12 or 13,000 Germans with tanks, and a terrible slaughter followed before they were forced to retreat into the forests. They eventually came out and drove the Germans from the plateau at the end, but there were terrible privations, and many, many young men, many untrained in war, never used a weapon before, some in the clothes they left honed in, died horribly. Now, it's right that we should remember the extraordinary brave men who crossed those beaches, but it's also right we should remember the young Frenchmen who gave their lives so they could cross the beaches more easily.
How organised was the French resistance? I've always imagined it to be small pockets of men and women. Was it
No, they were quite big, and in this case, this was the biggest of all of the French resistance units, 4,000 of them. We dropped them, a few days after D-Day, we dropped them 92 tons of arms. They were dropped arms by the British, largely the British, right the way in the previous wars. They were dropped British secret agents. The most famous SOE agent in the whole of France was dropped to them to help organise them. A fabulous British agent. She was a Polish countess, fabulously beautiful, fabulously courageous, extraordinarily promiscuous. She lands on the plateau by parachute one moonlit night and makes love with the SOE agent. On the first night they meet, whilst being strafed by not one but two Messerschmitt 109s. That shows a certain, well...
Fantastic.
Early in the morning. Dedication to the task, shall we say.
Yes.
She becomes a lover of Ian Fleming's after the war and the model for Vesper Lind. So we gave them a huge amount of help, but in the end it was their raw courage. And they did it quite specifically, not only to participate in the liberation of their country, but quite specifically under Eisenhower's orders, as part of D-Day, to keep the Germans off balance and making it easier. God knows it wasn't easy, but making it a bit easier than it might otherwise have been, because the Germans kept their troops in the south instead of throwing them against the beaches in the north. And I'm frankly sad, I must say, Ian, a bit sad, that amongst all the celebrations yesterday, right and proper, as you earlier said, we haven't acknowledged the part played by them as well. So it's laid out in my book called The Cruel Victory, and I hope it'll create some kind of balance as well.
Why do you think this important part of the war is ignored so much then? And is it ignored as much in France?
In truth, probably. I mean, taken overall, the French resistance did not throw a huge weight. I mean, in comparison to the massive armies of the Allies, the tanks, the aircraft, etc., they did not play a huge part in the great battles that liberated France or Europe. But on D-Day they did. On D-Day, by keeping the Germans guessing about whether there'd be a second invasion in the south, there was, by the way, about 6 weeks later, keeping their troops in the south, it meant in those crucial days, I mean, we have to remember that it wasn't over after D-Day. It took us something like, I think it was 3 weeks to break out, because the Germans had us absolutely pinned with our back to the channel, and there was a terrible slaughter, but we bombed Cannes almost flat. There was the Battle of the Hedgerows. So those crucial days where the resistance in the rear kept the German troops down there, they blew up the railway lines, they blew up the communication systems to stop the reinforcements moving north. Many were slaughtered in the day, but they added to the Battle of D-Day. How much to the rest of the war? Probably not much, but this time they really did.
Paddy, I know you've got a busy day. One final question. As I said in the introduction, there is a lot going on politically in Europe with the rise of far-right parties and the situation in Ukraine, Syria, things like that. Do you think we're in danger of forgetting some of the lessons that should be learnt from World War II?
Yes, bluntly. I mean, look, but not just World War II, what's happened since? The world has changed fantastically. Our friends of last resort, and in all circumstances, the Americans, and what a part they played in D-Day, now don't look east across the Atlantic, they look more west across the Pacific. We have to our eastern borders a highly aggressive Russian president prepared to use tanks and the Brezhnev doctrine to invade other people's territory. We have to our south a turbulent Maghreb Arab world which poses a threat of disorder and probably terrorism to us as well. And we in Europe think that this is the best time for us to revert back to individual nations who don't work together in face of that. I mean, if really, and I'm hesitating into politics on your program too much, but if really we in Europe, now living in a more turbulent, dangerous world, and specifically so for us, with rising economic powers elsewhere now more powerful than us individually, if we think the right answer is to abandon the European Union and to return to the perfect sovereignty of individual nations who float around like corks behind other people's ocean liners, help yourself. But let me tell you, the next few decades are going to be very, very tough. D-Day proves that working together and being engaged in Europe and being prepared to act and sacrifice lives to save freedom in Europe, because it's part of our freedom too, is crucial to the future. And if we have lost that lesson, then what comes next is going to be much more dangerous for us.
Paddy Ashdown, thanks so much for joining us. If you want to find out more, the book is called The Cruel Victory, about the French resistance during the Normandy landings. It's the former leader of the Liberal Democrats, Lord Paddy Ashdown. Paddy to me, we're mates. I can call him that. Thank you very much, sir. 03453 009956. Are we in danger of forgetting some of the lessons from World War II? And also, the D-Day memorial landings, the commemorations that have happened the past few days. I'm a cynical old grumpy so-and-so. I normally hate all this kind of stuff, but I've been really touched by it. When you hear some of those old fellas telling their stories, you can't help be touched. Is there anybody listening today who is sick of the amount of coverage the D-Day landings have had? I think we should just kind of move on. 03453 009956. It's 9:16. Let's get the travel. Let's go over to Liz Saul for the latest now.
Good morning, Iain. Thank you very much. It's been a busy old morning on the roads already. Not helped in part by the rather soggy roads. There's been quite heavy rain around and thunderstorms as well. More of those likely to continue throughout the day, so just be a bit careful. The M54, though, that's looking better. That accident cleared from near to Junction 3, the Albrighton exit, the A41. However, on the M6 going north, there's still that large green bag obstructing the outside lane of the motorway near to Junction 3 and 4 from the A444, as I say, heading up towards the M42 interchange, so be very careful around there. As you head to Smethwick, Wellington Street has been shut by police in both directions at Franklin Street, as you head between Franklin Street and Woodburn Road. Thank you to Bob who contacted us, but please tell us they're dealing with some sort of incident there. It's struggling in Birmingham on Hagley Road around Five Ways Island. Not too bad passing Bearwood Road where the major roadworks are going on, but busy in Selly Oak on Bristol Road as you head towards Priory Road and in the Edgbaston direction. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 travel 08453 002288.
Hunted. We're heading to Newtown Row, we're heading to Cecil Street, we're looking for the Red Point Climbing Centre.
5 clues, 3 hours.
I can't go any farther.
How far have you gone up, Debbie?
8 feet. It feels a lot higher.
To find one person in the West Midlands.
What's your full name?
It's Emma Dacre, and I'm your Hunted.
Hunted.
With Richard Wilford.
This Sunday morning from 9. BBC WM
95.6.
So, the D-Day landings, the coverage of the D-Day landings, two things, really. Are we in danger of forgetting some of the lessons from World War II? We've got the rise of far-right parties across Europe. We've got Putin flexing his muscles by moving tanks and armed men around. We've got the situation in Syria. Are we in danger of forgetting what we should have learnt from World War II? And also, is there anybody who could phone up and admit that they've had enough of the coverage of the D-Day landings? Mohammed's in Edgbaston. Morning, Mohammed.
Good morning.
What would you like to say, sir?
First of all, can I say well done, Paddy Ashdown. The Liberal Democrats are getting a terrible bashing at the moment, and you've got a three-party political broadcast in there. Nice one, Paddy.
Well, no, he came on to plug his book and talk about World War II, and it would be remiss of him not to mention the party, surely.
He's on about, staying in Europe, like, keep together and all this, like, don't leave Europe. When there's a free vote coming up, let other people decide. Don't let Paddy Ashdown decide for us.
No, Paddy Ashdown won't be deciding, Mohammed. He's just putting forward his point of view, as you are, in an ironic, sarcastic way. Well, no, it wasn't a party political broadcast. He used to lead the Lib Dems. He came on to...
It was a little.
No, he came on to plug his book. I asked him a question about the state of Europe, and he put forward his point of view. He didn't force the point. I asked him.
You've got your version of it. I've got my version of it. You're not going to bash me, mate, today.
I'm not trying to bash him, Mohammed. I'm just trying to clear up the mistake that you've made.
Yeah, no, I'm a bit fed up with it, actually. All this,
All of what?
All the D-Day landings all day long, like, I mean, it just gets on your nerves a little bit.
It must have got on the nerves of those poor lads when they did it 70 years ago, I'd have thought.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it did. Mm-hmm.
Having to jump out in the middle of the sea, water up to their necks, carrying guns and packs, storming onto the beach to protect our liberty.
Today would have done exactly the same if we had to.
Sorry?
I suppose the lads today would have done exactly the same.
Do you really think that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
No, of course they wouldn't. 17, 18, 19-year-olds would not have done that today.
Why not? How do you know that? You don't
Because
really
it's a completely different world. It's a completely different world.
You don't know what people are thinking about their country, do you? You haven't got a clue.
No, I have got a clue, Mohammed. I would imagine that a significant number of 17, 18, 19-year-olds, rightly or wrongly, I'm not criticising them, wouldn't want to risk...
I'm not saying that the guys weren't brave and that they'd done a fantastic job and we wouldn't have a free world if it wasn't for them. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, we get Remembrance Sunday every year. And we hear all the stories all the time. I mean, I went to work with... When I was 15 years of age, I'm 63 now, I heard all the stories about the war from people who went there. They're probably dead, these guys who told me all the stories. I mean, tell the stories in the school and that, like, but we don't have to have it on the television 24 hours.
Well, you don't have to watch it. It's only a couple of days' worth.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think, well, you asked if I thought it was over the top, and yes, I
Mohammed, do you know what?
And by
Do you know
the
what?
way,
I am.
excuse me, hang on a minute.
No, hang on a minute. You've interrupted me. I'm interrupting you now. I am a cynical, miserable old so-and-so, and I
Yes,
generally
I know.
hate all these ceremonies and all these people blowing their trumpets and waving flags. But even the last couple of days, I've heard some amazing stories on the BBC, on Sky.
Yeah.
I've seen some amazing things. And do you know what? I actually found it very, very moving and quite humbling. What they did was incredible, Mohammed. It was incredible.
Well, as some of them probably not around now. Only the ones who survived are around to tell the good stories. When I was at work, like, you know, and I hear these blokes talking about these gliders going in, you know, and the Americans who took a lot of them in there for us, they towed them in there by their planes and dropped them in the sea as soon as they heard bang, 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 bang.
I don't get what your point is.
The glider pilots that everybody's talking about now, they landed on the beaches and everything like that. Yeah, you don't hear the stories about the ones who were dipped in the sea by the Americans.
I still don't get your point. Stay there. Dave's in Albury. Dave, you want to speak to Mohammed, do you?
I do, yeah.
Go on.
My uncle was in Burma, up to his waist,
in
the sea, for us today.
Yeah.
And his mate was shot next to him.
Yeah.
He came back with his hand and his arm deformed.
Yeah.
Where he was shot with a flamethrower.
Yeah.
So I think that is a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know.
The British used flamethrowers as well, you know.
Well, yeah.
And you know it was against the Geneva Convention.
Well, that don't come into it.
Well,
they fought for what we are today.
I'm not saying they didn't. I'm not
and it annoys me.
Excuse me, my grandfather fought in the First World War and he was Irish. They took over the Irish country and yet he still fought for the country.
Dave, why do you think it's important to commemorate something like the D-Day landing 70 years on?
Because if they hadn't have gone there then, we probably wouldn't have had the freedom that we've got today.
I just said that.
No,
I didn't dispute anything.
It's a little bit of respect.
I didn't dispute that, mate. I didn't dispute the fact that what they'd done was kept us a safe country and all the rest of it.
Mohammed, if they what they went through, you know, thousands of people lost their lives. It was a horrific battle. It was the turning point, one of the turning points in the Second World War.
Yeah.
Can't we give them 2 days of TV coverage and radio coverage? That's literally the least we can do, isn't it?
If anybody was out there was fed up with it, and I gave you my answer.
I know, and I'm hoping that you might be able to explain your answer. Can't we at least give them 48 hours of TV and radio coverage? That's the very least we can do, isn't it?
Yeah, if you want to, but I didn't listen to most of it. I turned it off after a while. But you just asked the question, is there anybody out there that was fed up with it? And I answered the question.
I asked the question. I was hoping that anyone who called in might then be able to kind of help explain it to me. But you seem to be struggling to do that, which is fine.
We have Remembrance Sunday, don't we? I mean...
And that should be enough.
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah. It's just a little bit of respect for them, isn't it? That's all it is.
My grandfather fought in the First World War for the British.
Yeah,
and he was gassed, and he was never the same man.
48 hours out of 70 years.
I just told you, my grandfather was gassed in the First World War. He was never the same man.
We've got that point, Mohammed. We've got that point, Mohammed, and well done for your grandfather. Dave's trying to say something else now.
You know, 48 hours out of 70 years, just to have a little bit of respect, it's nothing, is it? For all the lads that come back and all the lads that got killed out there, 48 hours is nothing. You know, it is reality at the end of the day.
Right, I'm not going to say I disrespect your father because
it weren't my father, it was my uncle.
Well, your uncle. If you're trying to push me down the road to say I disrespect your father or your uncle,
I'm not. I'm just saying.
I do not.
You know, I was annoyed when you said you was
disgrace myself in saying anything like that. I was just asked a simple question. Was I a little bit fed up with the coverage? And I said, yes, I am, because I think it's...
Mohammed, Dave, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956 is the phone number. I didn't think we'd get anybody who'd... It does always annoy me when people... not annoy me, it surprises me. When people say, oh, there's too much coverage, there's too much on the TV about this and that, there's too much on the radio about Europe. Well, you have the choice to turn off or watch a DVD or read a book or go for a walk. You have the choice. And it's weird because normally I don't get caught in this jingoistic stuff. Is that the right word? Possibly not. I don't normally get het up and caught up in all of this kind of looking back and flag waving, but there's just been something about these D-Day commemoration celebrations, whatever you want to call it, that has struck a nerve with me. I guess it's because we're so used to seeing war films, aren't we? We see war portrayed in kind of a manly, butch, heroic way. And then you hear some fella who's 88 telling you actually what it was really like as you were approaching the beaches and you were terrified and you jump out and the water comes up to your armpits and you're carrying your pack and you've got your guns and you're getting shot at straight away and the bloke in front of you dies. When you hear it told by someone who's been through it, well, it makes it a bit... well, it doesn't make it a bit. It makes it incredibly powerful, doesn't it? And 48 hours of interrupted TV and radio coverage, that's the least we can give them, isn't it? 03453 009956. I didn't mean to have a go, Mohammed, and I hope you don't think you were. And I really appreciate you calling. If anybody else has had enough of the coverage, can we take it a stage further? I was struggling there with Mohammed a bit. Can we take it a stage further and try and find out why you've had enough of the coverage? Why you think that maybe there's a bit too much of it on the TV and on the radio. 03453 009956 is the telephone number. If you want to give me a call, you can also text 81333. Start your text WM. Let's go to Margaret in Sheldon. Morning, Margaret.
Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Margaret. What would you like to say?
Well, I was going to talk about something else until that... I'm lost for words.
Mohammed, tell me what your reaction is.
If he was standing in front of me now, I'm 76, I'd punch his lights out.
Oh, blimey.
He's disgusting.
Tell me why.
Why? After what all them men and them lads and the women and what they went through, so that this country and France and other countries would have freedom today, and he's got the nerve to stand there and say about 48 hours is too much. My God, if it was on every day, nothing could be too much. But it says at the going down of the sun, we will remember them. And we will remember, and I remember them every single day. He's disgusting. What a disgusting piece of work. He wouldn't have the freedom to pick the phone up and say them disgusting words he'd said if it wasn't for all them lads who gave their lives.
Now, Margaret, in fairness to Mohammed, he says that he has respect for them.
No, he wouldn't have said that. No. There's an off switch, as you said, on the television. There's how many channels now? 80 channels? And he objects to people showing their respects. He's disgusting. And I'm sure that I'm not on my own. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to keep calm. But he's just disgusting and disrespectful.
I suppose that it is within people's rights. It's one of the freedoms that was fought for, that people can express themselves openly. Mohammed is just saying, that he thinks perhaps the coverage is a bit over the top. As he says, we do have Remembrance Sunday.
No. Once a year. No. You should remember and thank them every day, not once a year. I'm sorry, it's just how I feel, and I'm sure that there's many more, and he's disgusting. And if he doesn't like it here in this country, well, why doesn't he go and live somewhere else?
Margaret, let's put that out there. 03453 009956. Now, I know that you called in about something else, didn't you? Do you still want to make your other point?
Yes.
Go on.
Well, he reminds me of what happened yesterday. Driving up the Radleys yesterday afternoon about 4 o'clock with my daughter, and all of a sudden we seen a young man who was collapsed on the pavement. People were just walking and driving past him. So we pulled over to see if we could help. Another car did pull up with 2 more women in, and this one who was walking past us, he's drunk. No, he wasn't drunk. He'd collapsed and he was ill. Luckily, an ambulance came past and they flagged the ambulance down. They managed to find a pulse and took him away. But doesn't that just show you Mohammedism for you? Like that man. Don't care, pass the other side, let somebody else.
How old was the fella that had collapsed, you reckon?
I reckon he was in his early 20s. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't... He just collapsed. He could have had a fit or anything.
And did the ambulance people... You stayed until the ambulance came, did you?
Yes, of course.
And did they give you any indication of what was wrong?
And the ambulance men got straight out and came to his aid. And they took him away in the ambulance. We had to move on because of traffic.
Mm.
And when you know, why do people... Why? If it was somebody in their family, wouldn't they want somebody to stop and see that they were all right?
It's an odd one that I saw an old lady fall over. She'd just fallen over the other day, and it was a really busy road, but I still pulled my car over,
well,
and then I saw 4 or 5 other people had got to her and were with her, and I thought, well, I'm going to block the traffic. There are 5 people with her. That'll be fine. So I drove on.
Yeah, but there's the other people until we pulled over, and these other 2 women pulled over in a car. People were walking past and driving past it.
That's got to be a rarity, though, isn't it, Margaret? I can't believe that if that were to happen in other places, that would be the reaction that you'd get.
Honestly, I don't. That Mohammed, I just can't get him out of my. I just can't believe that anybody would say that. I sat here watching it yesterday. I had to keep turning it off. As you can gather, I'm getting on. I'm 76. I mean, I lived through the war. Escaped by being bombed by a just a miracle. And I haven't got the words. I'm sorry. I just haven't got the words to express my disgust with him. And he wouldn't have the right to say that. If he'd have said that under the jackpot, they'd have took him out and shot him or stuck him in a concentration camp.
But then I suppose that's the good thing, isn't it? That is the great thing about the freedom that we've got, that those fellas 70 years ago, and those women, fought for. The freedom we've got is we can say, actually, do you know what? I'm not interested in this coverage. I'm not that bothered by what happened. That's one of the freedoms that we've got.
He, as an individual, is disgusting in my eyes. I may be wrong, but that's just how passionately I feel about it.
Margaret, it's good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956 is the phone number. Well, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? A couple of times. I remember this was... we had one of the boys, so it was in the last 4 years, and we were driving around. It was in North London, and I heard a thud. And I looked behind us. My wife was driving. I looked behind us, and an old woman had fallen over outside a newsagent's. It was on the other side of the road, and I just said to her, "Stop the car. I'll see you in a bit." And I jumped out and ran over and helped her, and she'd fallen over, and she was a bit shaken, and we had a chat, and then I asked if she wanted an ambulance, and she didn't, and I helped her get up, and then someone else came along and helped us, and all that kind of thing. I can't imagine walking past someone who'd collapsed on the street or is having a bit of... But does it depend... Here we go. Does it depend on what they're wearing? If it was a young lad in his 20s, would that make it different from an old woman in her 70s who was smartly dressed? And would that be different from someone that appeared to be a homeless person? Does that make it any different? 03453 009956. This is the wonderful organic way this show works. We talk about something, you call in about something else, we can go with it. Have you ever been in that situation? I spoke to a woman, actually, I interviewed a woman in the week who has really bad diabetes, and she can get an attack just like that. She has a dog that sniffs out when she's having a diabetic attack. It's incredible. But she collapsed in the street, went into a coma, and people walked past her for about 20 minutes. 20 minutes! Isn't that awful? 03453 009956 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Would love to hear your stories on this, please. If you've ever collapsed in the street, or if you've ever seen anybody collapse in the street. Do people just stand around watching it? Iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. You can send me a text, 81333, start your text WM, or the best way to get in touch, of course, is to give me a call, 03453 009956.
Iain Lee
on BBC WM
95.6, the voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Right, on the subject of the D-Day coverage, there's been a lot of it over the last couple of days. I was asking, is anybody sick of the D-Day coverage? I wasn't expecting to get any calls on this. Boom, straight away, Mohammed phones up and says, well, it's a bit much. Tony in Telford has texted in, Iain, I'm 65. And I thought I'd be fazed by the all-day coverage, but for the first time in my life, I realised the debt my generation and later ones owe. God bless them. Dave's on the line. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Ian.
Dave, what do you want to say?
I'd like to tell you a little story first.
Oh.
When I was a kid, I had the pleasure of knowing an old desert rat. And this guy, Mr. Green, he was about 5 foot tall. He was about 7 stone wet through. And I used to sit with him and he used to tell me stories about when he was a desert rat. And the expressions and the tone of voice that I've heard on that guy's voice and in his face. There were times when he used to cry when he was telling me. There was times when he was angry with what he'd experienced. And he always told me one thing. If ever you see or hear of injustice, shout about it. You know, shout about it. Don't let it just go. Any injustices at all in any walk of life, shout about it. Now about this commemoration, I watched it. I never took my eyes off it, and I had 2 feelings. I remembered and thanked the soldiers and all the people who had gone, that gave me life. And then another thing come to me. And I thought about the present-day soldiers, and it's absolutely disgraceful. These guys and girls are fighting for this country, fighting for us, and yet when they come back with limbs missing, maimed, blinded, whatever it is, this government, this rotten government, won't even allow them to claim benefit, and that is an absolute disgrace. And I feel so angry about it, you know. I mean, these guys and girls are going out, they're giving their lives, they're coming back maimed, they're you know, God only knows what they must think and feel, and then they come back and they find out this rotten, corrupt government won't even allow them to claim benefits.
Trevor, I want to say Trevor. Dave, sorry. What do you think about the public's attitude towards the modern soldiers that are returning from various conflicts?
Well, you know, I mean, I heard what he said, and this guy, Mohammed, the truth of it is, with people like Mohammed, he doesn't give a damn about anybody. He's just a selfish, greedy, grab-all, stuff-you-jack attitude. And sadly, there's too much of it in the country. That's why the country is so divided.
But Dave, this is why I mentioned the soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and places like that. World War II, there was an obvious, definitive finishing point. There was something we were aiming for. It was the overthrow of Hitler and international fascism, and it was returning captured states back to their people. That was obvious,
yep.
And it was obvious who was good and who were the baddies.
Yep.
With Iraq, with Afghanistan, I don't know what the aim is. I don't know what the end point was supposed to be, and I don't know if we've achieved it. These wars, these conflicts, they're not as clear-cut as World War II, are they?
Well, no. You see, but the problem our present-day lads and girls have got, you know, I mean, with all due respect to the old soldiers, at least it was man on man, you know, gun to gun. I mean, now, somebody drops a bomb and it blows everything up to sky high. So, you know, the soldiers today, they're not just fighting one-on-one. You know what I mean? With all these bombs and all manner of stuff, these explosions, they've got no defence against it.
Dave, stay there, because I think Millie in Aston wants to defend Mohammed. Is that right, Millie?
Right, listen to me.
Go on.
I heard you put it on the air. You said anyone that was sick of it, you know, bored, call in, yeah? Mohammed called you and give you his opinion. He said to you he didn't like it. All right, I made a cake and I give you peace. And I said, do you like the cake? You said, no, Millie, it don't taste nice. I can't kill you because you said that. No? I would just say, okay then, you don't like it. Mohammed said he had enough, yeah? Now, I'm a woman. I watch soldiers but I was married to a soldier, yeah? Last night I watched the Germans, and where the Germans had the people separated to take the children, and the parent had the children one side, the men one side, and who could have saw and all that big thing. It was on last night. I sat and watched it. I watched the thing. I was a baby with that. I was about 4 months old, yeah? Good.
What's that awful music in the background you're listening to, Millie?
That's my cell phone gone off.
It sounds like the 80s. It sounds like... What song is that?
I want to listen.
Electric Dreams.
I know, listen.
It's Electric Dreams by Phil Oakey and Giorgio Moroder.
I only know
to see you smile.
You like it then?
Yeah, well, that's your ringtone, is it, Millie?
Yeah, that's the...
Why have you chosen Electric Dreams, a song about a computer that becomes sentient and falls in love with a man?
I got this one, and then I got... Oh, God, what the other one is? Oh, can't remember the other one. One is for that one is for when a text come in, and the ringtone, that's only the text tone.
That's only the text tone, wow. It plays the whole song, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now...
Yes, back to the point you were making about World War II and cakes.
Yeah, back to Mohammed, yeah. But yes. Mohammed's telling you all that he had his father or whoever, his grandparents in there, yeah? But I don't know. My great-grandfather could be in the war, because, you know, Barbados is better known as Little England, yeah?
Yes.
Well, I can't kill Mohammed. I said that I watch it, yeah?
I wouldn't want you to kill Mohammed, no.
No, I watch it. I watch all soldiers, then I watch them. Anything with the army, with the soldiers, I watch. But Mohammed telling you what he don't like.
Yes.
All you all got to say, well, that's his opinion. He don't like it. Well,
But Millie, you'd agree that we are allowed to try and find out why he has that opinion. I don't think I was having a go at Mohammed. I was just getting frustrated that he couldn't explain that opinion beyond I don't like it.
What happened? He don't want to explain. You know, there are such thing as you talk too much. You understand?
I don't know that phrase,
you know that phrase? You talk,
no, I don't know the phrase you talk too much, no. Never been said to me.
Careless talk causes life.
No, careless talk doesn't cause life. Careless talk costs lives.
It costs, well, whatever. He could say something,
big difference.
And somebody might know him and don't like what he's saying, then going to write him off.
Well, then, no, hang on. No, who are you suggesting that one of Mohammed's friends might kill him for phoning up BBC WM?
Not his friend, someone that don't like what he said. Like that lady said, if he was standing in front of me, she would have given one. You get where I'm coming from?
Yes.
So
can I just say to all...
Didn't like it, he didn't like it.
Millie, can I just say... Yes, Millie, can I just say to all of my listeners, as far as I'm aware, none of the callers to BBC WM 95.6 have been killed because of the views they've expressed on BBC WM 95.6. I'll check just to make sure that's true.
Like me, everyone knows me because my voice, I might be in the bus and I'm talking to you and it goes, are you Millie? Got to hear me on the radio? How many people know Mohammed? People knows me everywhere from Coventry.
Well, but if you get a text in front of someone at the post office, they might kill you for that.
A text? But the post office don't know my cell phone number.
Well, no, but they'll know your ringtone now. It's Electric Dreams.
Never mind my ringtone, but the thing is this, it's your voice. You know, people know you from your voice. People just meet me. They say, I might be in town, I'm in the city walking, and they goes, are you Millie? And I says, why? I always ask why first, and they goes, oh, are you Danny Black's mum? And I go, yeah. And
are you Danny Black's mum?
Huh?
Are you Danny Black's mum?
I am. That's my son.
How's Danny doing? Is he all right?
Yeah, he's good. That's my son.
What's he up to these days?
Nothing. He's all right.
He's such a layabout.
He's not. That's my...
Give him a boot up the backside, Millie.
No, he's good. That's my boy.
Give Danny Black a boot up the bum.
Well, okay then. Well, I wasn't bored of it because I watch it and I watch anything to do with it.
Okay, but Mohammed, you think that Mohammed was well within his rights to say that he was bored of it?
No, I said he was in his rights, but he just gave his opinion. He just said to you what he think.
All right, then. Millie, thank you very... Listen, we're going to move on because we're going to be late for the travel. Millie, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. What Why would you have that song, Electric Dreams, Phil Oakey, Giorgio Moroder, great song. It's 4 minutes long. Why would you have a 4-minute song as your text tone? That seems a little bit odd, doesn't it? This is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. It's 9:45. Let's get the latest travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Ian, thank you. You'll be pleased to know that large green bag has been moved off the northbound M6 by junction 3 on the northbound carriageway, as I say, the A444 exit. It's looking much better through there. Although main routes around Birmingham and the Black Country still looking quite soggy and wet in places. There's been rather hazardous driving conditions with the inclement weather that we've had so far this morning, so just be a bit careful. In Smethwick, Wellington Street remains shut both ways between Franklin Street and Woodburn Road as police deal with an incident there, so that's likely to cause you some disruption and delay. And be aware the northbound M40 has a lane out at junction 15 at Longbridge Island. A vehicle has overturned there by that turning, and traffic's rather heavy going approaching and passing the scene. It's not looking too bad now around Five Ways Island. That seems to have eased off for the moment on Hagley Road going into Birmingham city centre. You'll find on the trains though still delays between Birmingham International and Holyhead. Delays of about 25 minutes affecting Arriva Trains Wales. This is because of lightning which has damaged equipment on the line. It's also affecting Virgin Train services. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
We love Pete Morgan because he's got red hair. We love Pete Morgan.
Well, that's my ringtone sorted anyway.
Pete Morgan, 6 till 9.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6, 03453 009956. Coming up later on in the show, we'll be discussing, does anybody believe in horoscopes? That nonsense in the papers where, oh, you were born on June the 21st, so that means that, oh, for goodness sakes. We're talking about that. And also, the Pope himself, His Holiness, the Holy Father, has said, don't have dogs, don't have cats, have kids. Otherwise you're going to feel lonely in later life. Is he right? In many ways, I think cats are a better company than children. They're certainly less hassle. We'll talk about that later on. You can get your calls in now if you want. 03453 009956. We're talking about D-Day. The original question was, are we in danger of forgetting important lessons? But we've gone off onto, has there been too much coverage? Mohammed from Edgbaston thinks, yeah, there's been way too much coverage on this. 03453 009956. We also had a call from Margaret in Sheldon, who found a man who'd collapsed on the street, and people were just walking past him and ignoring him. Trevor, apparently you were there as well, were you?
Yeah, that's correct. I was in the traffic on the way to go pick up my young boys from school. Spotted the gentleman on his side, on the side of the road, like. Pulled the car over as another car pulled over, and I asked him, is he to do with you? No, it wasn't. So I jumped out. Now, I'm an ex-soldier. First aid trained since I was 13 years old. So I've jumped out. I've got down. I've checked it for a pulse, which was there, but a little bit weak. There was no response for him. His eyes were open, but very glazed over. Several people were there, trying to get an ambulance. Luckily, an ambulance passed while we was with him. They pulled over and got him. I would say he was in his mid-30s.
Right.
There was a slight stench of alcohol, but what the actual reason for him collapsing was, I don't know. Now, what I find funny about it is, and I agree with the lady that phoned up, a lot of people are too scared to get involved. They just carry on with their day-to-day basis. Now, going back a little bit, and I slightly digress, my brother, a few years back, was on his way into town in Birmingham when he spotted a gentleman face down in the grass.
Yeah.
When he pulled over his van and got there, the gentleman was actually dead, and the family of the gentleman contacted my brother a few days later through the police and that, and it turns out that gentleman had been face down in the grass for about 48 hours.
Oh, dear.
And it just goes to show how different a country we are now, where I don't know whether we're not too scared to get involved in other people's business, or we're not trained enough in different things, but somewhere I think we need to look at just basic first aid towards in the schools for sort of things like this, because too many people are being left in positions where we could help. Just the basic recovery position can save somebody's life, yet many people don't know what the recovery position
But
is.
even if you don't do first aid, right, and even if you don't particularly want to get involved because you might be a bit concerned that maybe they're a druggie or maybe, you know, everyone could still stand a distance away and dial 999 on their phones, couldn't they? That's the very least you could do.
I would say so, and I'm not going to try and throw out a figure out there, but the large majority of the population have a mobile phone now, and it's absolutely free to call 999.
Even if you just drive past and you see it on the street and you go, do you know what, I'm not going to stop, but I'm going to dial 999 and tell someone what I've seen. Even if you do that as the bare minimum. I mean, I would stop and I'd get out and I'd see if there was anything I could do. But it does seem odd that people walk past and don't do anything.
It really is strange. My partner said to me, how do you know if it wasn't a bit of a setup, Trev, and he was going to attack you either? I don't think about that. I just think about trying to save this poor bloke's life. I don't know him from Adam. I've never met him in my life. All I know is I'd like to think that, God forbid, I fell over, somebody would do exactly the same for me. And I just can't fathom why people are too involved in their own day-to-day business just to take that slight second to make a phone call at the bare minimum. It's a strange world we live in.
Trevor, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. I guess the thing you have to think is, what if it was you? Or what if it was your mum? What if it was your mum that was lying there on the floor and people were just walking past? Give us your call. Good Samaritan stories, I suppose. 03453 009956. Talking about the D-Day coverage, have we learnt anything from what happened in World War II? Has there been too much coverage? Surprised that we had a call straight away, phoning up and saying, yeah, actually, I think there has been too much coverage. Joined now by Professor of Conflict Studies at the University of Wolverhampton, Stephen Badsey. Morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Ian.
Just explain the D-Day landings, for those who perhaps have missed it and have missed the point. How significant were they in the winning of World War II?
Well, it's the culminating point. Towards the end of World War II, in 1944, the Nazi occupation of Europe is still there and it's still strong, but it's like a balloon, and D-Day is the pin that bursts the balloon, effectively making the landing on occupied Europe. It starts a sequence of events which, within just under a year, leads to the defeat of Nazi Germany and the establishment throughout Western Europe of the states we have today.
It was obviously a huge investment in terms of numbers of men that were getting sent over. Was it always a definite that it was going to be successful? How risky a plan was it?
It was a belt and braces job. It was incredibly risky, but it absolutely had to work. The alternative is, at best, the war goes on for another 1 or 2 years with considerable further loss of life. And also, at worst, you might still have seen a Europe dominated by Nazi ideology, by the belief systems associated with Adolf Hitler, up to the present day.
Churchill, as far as I'm aware, wasn't sure about it up to quite late in the day. He was considering maybe sending the troops into Portugal, wasn't he?
Not Portugal. The Adriatic. The upper end,
thank you.
What he called, totally wrongly, the soft underbelly of Europe. But that was concerned about what the world would look like after the war, or specifically Europe. The idea that if the British and their allies made their main landing really up in the very north of the Adriatic, that what would happen would be that British and American and other forces would perhaps reach Eastern Europe further and quicker than the forces of the Soviet Union, more or less modern Russia, coming the other way.
I think what's made this so powerful for me, Stephen, we've all seen, recreations of the D-Day landings and battles in films, and they all look, they look quite macho and glamorous. What's really hit home for me is hearing, men in their late 80s, early 90s, telling the story of what they did when they were boys, when they were 19 years old, and they were jumping off those boats into the sea and running towards the beach. When you hear those stories being told, it really does make it real and highlights how terrifying it must have been.
I'm glad it does make it real for people, and that's why we think these stories are very important to be told. Although most of them would have been older than 19, the British in particular were opposed to sending people that young into combat, but some people found a way. They were very brave, or on some occasions lied about their ages. The youngest person that I know of who died in Normandy was a Canadian who was close to his 17th birthday, but as I said, he had lied about his age. Listening to the accounts of the soldiers is always a deeply moving experience for anybody.
I heard a fella being interviewed on 5 Live. His name has escaped me, but he was, just telling the story very matter-of-factly, jumping into the water, and the water was going up to his waist. And the interviewer said, "How do you feel when you get people like me asking you about the story?" And he paused for a second, and he said, "I can remember it like it was yesterday. I still find it very, very upsetting to talk about." And that's 70 years later.
It's hardly surprising. I've taken a number of people, including veterans, round the Normandy battlefields, and it's not unusual for people to come up to me and say, "I was 20 years old, please tell me where I was and what I was doing," because after all, what did they know at the time? But taking veterans to those locations, they will bring memories back, and sometimes these are very upsetting memories. That's a risk that they and you take. Very often they are important memories for them. They do bring it back very clearly. Some people, of their experience of a war, will say they don't want to talk about it because they spent 4 or 5 years stacking blankets in Aldershot. So we have to be a little bit careful about people who will say that. One of my uncles who fought in Normandy, he's dead now, once said, "I was a painter and decorator, not a soldier." He didn't want to talk about it at all. But I know that he was a very brave and distinguished soldier indeed.
Stephen, thanks very much for your time. Professor of Conflict Studies at the University of Wolverhampton, Stephen Badsey, 03453 009956. Gary's in Solihull. Morning, Gary.
Morning, Ian.
What do you want to say, Gary?
Well, you're asking if people are fed up of it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough of it. There should be more. The children should be taught more. I mean, if you sit and listen to historians, a proper historian, and they can tell you a lot, what went on. And like you say, when you hear 90-year-olds talking about what they've been through and how patriotic they are, it's saddening to tell that, there's too much of it.
I suppose to some people, though.
In this country.
Well, I suppose to some people, though, it was 70 years ago is a long, long time ago, and to some people, it is irrelevant.
No, well, to the minority, I suppose. But
how long do we keep on? How long do we keep on commemorating it and remembering it? I mean, do we do it for 100 years and then stop? Do we do it for 200 years and then stop?
Forever.
But that isn't going to work. There are significant battles throughout British history that were important for the future and the shaping of our country that we don't celebrate anymore.
No, but there were world wars, World War I and World War II. This Iraq and Afghanistan, you can put that down to a conflict and not a war, because there were atrocities, but that's all down to money. They're not power. That's down to money and oil.
And that is interesting because, as I said earlier to a caller, I have no idea what Iraq and Afghanistan are hoping to achieve, whereas World War II had a very definite finishing point that we were aiming for. And do you think that's why perhaps some of the modern troops maybe don't get the same respect when they come home as World War II veterans do?
Well, it's this government, isn't it? I mean, it's all on about now... Blair and Bush, it's a big cover-up with what was said between them two, and Blair has got a lot to answer for them soldiers, I mean, the soldiers nowadays, there's lawyers in this country trying to sue them for atrocities, what happened to Iraqi people. I mean,
Gary, listen, I'm sorry to cut you short, we've got to end it there because the news is coming up. Thank you very much. 03453 009956 is the phone number. Still taking your calls. Do you think there's been too much D-Day coverage? I won't have a go at you if you do. I'm just curious as to know why you think that. Also coming up, the Pope says, don't have pets, have kids.
waking up the West Midlands with the latest news, sport, weather and travel updates. Pete Morgan at Breakfast is back Monday morning from 6.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 10 o'clock. Let's get the latest news now with Nicole Pullman.
The Environment Agency is warning of flash floods in the West Midlands. A storm breaking over our region, bringing thunder, lightning and intense downpours of rain or hail, is moving by, but a yellow alert has been issued by the agency. Scientist Vicky Royce-Williams from Midland Storm Chasers says when this one passes, more will follow in the next few days.
Well, this one's going to be heading up towards Stoke and moving on sort of northward bound, sort of northwesterly. But we do still have this really warm, muggy Spanish plume over the country. And that's still colliding with this cold front that's coming in from the west. So we're expecting a lot more storms to sort of be developing.
The Education Secretary, Michael Gove, is expected to come under renewed pressure today in connection with the Trojan horse claims in Birmingham. The Shadow Education Secretary, Tristram Hunt, will accuse him of failing to act when he first heard allegations that Islamic extremists were trying to influence teaching at schools in the city. Ofsted has been investigating 21 Birmingham schools. It's due to publish its findings on Monday. Lawyers are to be banned from offering cash or other incentives to persuade people to bring injury claims as part of a government crackdown on insurance fraud. Ministers say the cost of whiplash and other injuries is making insurance policies too expensive. More from our personal finance correspondent, Simon Gompertz.
At the moment, courts in England and Wales have the discretion to throw out claims from supposed accident victims who are believed to be trying it on. But now they'll be required to, unless that would cause substantial injustice, as part of the effort to bring down the cost of insurance. It doesn't just mean getting rid of bogus claims. Those that are grossly exaggerated will also be thrown out in full. Some lawyers advertise upfront cash or tablet computers such as iPads in an effort to entice people into making claims after a car accident or tripping on the road. That'll be banned.
A D-Day veteran who went missing from his care home in Sussex on a mission to get to yesterday's commemorations in France has now returned to the UK. Bernard Jordan, who's 90, decided to make his own way to Normandy when it was told he was too late to join an organised trip. Peter Curtis from the care home, The Pines in Hove, was asked how Mr Jordan was after his adventure.
Bernard is on fine form. He came off and has tucked into a hearty English breakfast as soon as he got off the ferry, and then he came and met us and a couple of other of my team from the care home, who he was absolutely delighted to see. He was really on sparkling form.
The weather humid with thunderstorms and intense downpours of rain or hail. Drier and brighter this afternoon, although isolated heavy or thundery showers are still possible. The top temperature 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice.
The Voice.
The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
You should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself.
We are even more intelligent. They treated me with the utmost respect.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. What a busy first hour of the show, thank you. Two things that we've talked about in the first hour of the show. The D-Day coverage. Do you think there's been too much D-Day coverage? As I said earlier, I am one of those cynical old so-and-sos. I'm not particularly jingoistic. I'm not particularly proud to be British. But the last couple of days, I've had a lump in my throat. Hearing these stories, seeing the images on those beaches, I've had a lump in my throat. But do you think, like Mohammed, who called in at the start of the show, do you think there has been too much coverage of the D-Day celebrations, commemorations, whatever it is you want to call them? We also spoke to Margaret in Sheldon, who found a fella collapsed in the street and people were just walking past him and ignoring him. Well, she rushed to help. That prompted Trevor to call in, who also saw the incident, and he was saying that one of his mates found a bloke who'd been dead for 2 days. Your stories, please, of being ignored if you've collapsed or been sick in the street, or finding people who've collapsed. Give us a call on that. And also in this hour, His Holiness the Pope, the Grand Papa himself, has said, don't have dogs, don't have cats, have kids. How many kids has the Pope got, I wonder? 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453
009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Give us a call, 03453 009956 is the telephone number. You can email me as well, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. Well, we had Paddy Ashdown on at the start of the show. He's plugging his new book, fair play, but he came on and had a chat. Very nice gentleman. Chris in Hales Owen has emailed in. How fantastic was Paddy Ashdown? He should be Prime Minister, towering above all the pygmies, and I'm with you. I was cynical over D-Day, but found myself with tears in my eyes yesterday. 03453 009956 is the telephone number. Let's go to Chris in Great Bar. Morning, Chris.
Good morning, Ian.
Chris, what would you like to say?
It's regarding helping people, that you found collapse.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Yes, I've got two stories to tell you. Last year, a colleague of mine, coming off duty, found a gentleman collapsed in the Queen Elizabeth ground. She was in a nurse's uniform. She went to assist him and was mugged.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So hang on. So was this a setup then? The person lying there?
I'm not sure. She came off duty, was going to her car, saw this gentleman, went to assist him, and the next thing you know, he got up and she was mugged.
Oh dear.
Mm.
Well, again, this is what we were talking about earlier on, that some of these situations perhaps can be a little bit uncomfortable. If it's a busy high street, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're probably safe. If it's a little bit darker and a bit lonelier, perhaps the best thing might be to call an ambulance from a distance.
But the trouble is that it was nearby the new hospital.
Yeah.
Mm. And many years ago, I was coming off duty. I used to work at the accident hospital. And approaching Newtown Road, there was 3 guys. One was lying in the middle of the road, and 2 was on the other side. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do? Should I stop being a woman on my own? So I put my foot down, and the guy in the middle of the road soon got up.
Hang on, what? Sorry, he was just lying in the middle of the road?
Yes. It was in the summer.
Yeah.
Twilight hours. I was coming from work at about 10 o'clock at night. That's the time we usually finish.
Right.
And I was approaching Newtown Road. I took one of the side road, which would lead me into Newtown Road because that's the way I go home. And I saw 3 fellas. One was in the middle of the road. One was on the opposite side of the road. And I thought, what am I going to do? Because I don't know if you recall when on the motorway some woman was attacked and she was pregnant and was thrown over. And the police had said women on their own should never stop for anything at all. And I just thought to myself, what am I going to do? So I put my foot down. And I thought, if I killed him, I can always go to the police and say, look, I was frightened. There were 3 fellas, wasn't sure what to do. But he soon got out of the road when he saw that I wasn't going to stop. So, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
It is, isn't it? Yes, and you do have to be very, very careful. Thank you very much for that. And I suppose that does highlight that there are situations when a fella lying in the middle of the road. That's weird, though, right? That's a weird one. Chris, thank you for that. I suppose there are situations when perhaps you have to be cautious if you're thinking of helping somebody. And I don't want to do the whole, hey, lonely woman walking down the street thing, because it's a little bit patronising. I'm just as likely to get my head kicked in and mugged as a woman is, I would have thought. 03453 009956. As a member of your family, or you collapsed in the street, or been attacked in the street. I spoke to a fella in the week, right? He was getting the whatever kicked out of him by a nutter, OK? A nut job was smacking him over the back of the head with a bottle of wine, a full bottle of wine, and kicking him, right? People came out to film it. People were filming it. Let's be generous. Let's hope they were filming it as evidence to send to the police and not to upload to Funny or Die or YouTube. But they had their phones out and they were filming it. 03453 009956 is the phone number. We got Mike on the line. Morning, Mike.
Hello, Ian. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. What's the weather like in Tividale, Mike?
It's dull at the moment, but not too bad. It isn't raining. We've had a good storm this morning.
Has it not been chucking it down there yet?
It has been this morning, yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Really
I love it.
bad.
I love it. I want a bit of thunderbolts and lightning. Very, very frightening me. Fantastic weather.
Oh, dear.
What have you got for us, Mike?
What it is, I mean, this is the way that when we're talking about the people falling in the street and that, I think it's the modern generation, isn't it? You could. They don't seem to care. It's like sort of a neighbourly type thing to new neighbours now. You can go past them now in the times and they won't say good morning or anything. It's the day and age. It's this generation that's coming up now. The older generation will speak to you, but the younger
Well, hang on, but does anybody say good morning to each other in the street anymore? If you don't know someone, I don't think anybody really says good morning, otherwise they'll think you're a lunatic.
Yeah, that's right. We go do our shopping of a Thursday, and everybody talks to us now, you know, sort of, we're the 65 plus, and you get to talk to everyone, and it's a sort of joy to go shopping now of a Thursday, you know, around. But this is digressing from what I rang in about in the first place.
Oh, go on, what did you ring in about?
About the wars. I think the men and women who fought in the wars were so courageous, and they deserve all the respect that they get. The only thing, what really, it upsets me, is when there's a bomb gone off anywhere, and there's if it's a news programme, they always say, well, there may be pictures in this sequence that may disturb, you know. But when they are doing the war documentaries, you see guys going over the top and they fall down, and it's dead. The people have died. It's someone's brother, it's someone's dad, it's someone, you know, family. But there's never no warning. There's never a warning before they put these documentaries on.
Well, I think you can assume, though, can't you, that if you're watching a war documentary, that there's a strong chance you're going to see some pretty horrific images.
Yes, but the attitude is now that with the modern games that the kids have got, and that they're up again the next day and they're fighting again. You know, they put the film on and everything else and they're fighting again. But this is a completely different thing. You're actually watching someone be killed or maimed or this type of thing. They never put or say before the documentary comes on. I mean, I can't watch them because it upsets me too much. I think, well, somebody's gone out of the trench, got to the top and slides back down again. And it's always upset me, Iain, to think, you know, that was somebody's family.
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean. You just reminded me, the greatest war documentary of all time. Do you know where I'm going with this, Mike?
Yes, yeah.
Go on, which one?
I don't know. Go on.
The World at War, narrated by Laurence Olivier. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh man, it's something like it's someone will give me the details. It's like a 16-hour long series.
Okay.
It's the most in-depth. It was made in the 70s. The most in-depth look at World War II ever. And yeah, it keeps it real. There's some pretty horrific footage in there, but it really is. Yeah. If anybody wants to learn about World War II, how grim it was, they should go and dig that out and have a look at that. It's quite incredible. What do you think, Dave? Mike, sorry, when you hear someone like Mohammed calling in earlier on and says there's been too much coverage of the D-Day landings.
Absolutely. You know, to think these men and women fought for what we've got now. And you get someone come on like that and sort of say what he said. I just can't get my head around it at all, you know. It's so disrespectful. And that's someone's, you know, they deserve all the coverage they get, you know, in this day and age, because it's so important to remember actually what happened.
Mike, listen, I can hear you're emotional. I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much. 03453 009956. And I think that's kind of part of the important thing, isn't it? We hear Mike, we heard Margaret earlier on, both almost, it sounded like, but don't do them any disrespect, on the edge of tears. They were very emotional about something that hadn't directly happened to them. There wasn't an immediate impact on their lives. There was an impact later on in their lives, but it wasn't directly involving them, and yet they're still very, very emotional about it. Now, I would say I'm not as emotional about it as that, although I did have a lump in my throat yesterday, hearing some of the stories. You know, when it's being told by someone who experienced it, it really does make it real. 03453 009956. What do you think? Do you agree with one of our earlier callers who said, actually, yeah, there's been too much coverage of this? I won't have a go at you if you think there is. I'm not going to have a pop. I'm just curious to try and get behind your thinking. And do you know what? A few years ago, when I was a bit younger, maybe I would have thought the same thing. Is it an age thing? I don't know. Struggling to get my head around it, so I need your help. 03453 009956. It's 10:15. This is BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Liz.
Ian, thank you very much. You've still got problems on the northbound M40 at lane 3 closed as you head around junction 15. That's the A46 Longbridge Island Warwick exit. Briefly, 2 lanes were shut at that stretch with this vehicle which has overturned there, but one of the lanes has reopened. However, there's a trail of traffic and queues and delays in its wake. In Smethwick, Wellington Street remains shut because of a police incident between Franklin Street and Woodburn Road. That's causing a bit of congestion. Busy into Birmingham now through Handsworth on Soho Road, round Kings Heath on the A435 passing the supermarket. Warner Street has been shut in Birmingham. There's an event at Adam and Eve at the junction with Bradford Street, and we understand it's going to be closed until tomorrow morning. Expect delays around Sutton Coldfield. There's a race for life which gets underway in just under an hour's time, so a lot of traffic heading in that direction. You could be in for a rather soggy run, I'm afraid, with all the heavy rain around this morning. So just be a bit careful. There might be a bit of traffic around there. The Rugeley Charter Fair is getting underway in Rugeley from 12 at Hagley Park on Power Station Road. There's a parade there, so rolling road closures in place around Rugeley as well. If you can update us, 08453 002288.
In the land of Sage, near the White Mountains, lives the powerful tribe called the Apache.
Join me, Apache Indian, for a special edition of Midlands Masala this Sunday night from 6 on BBC WM 95.6.
That was exciting, wasn't it? I always try and give out the old number, 03453 009956. You can email ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. 2 emails here, one from David on the subject of D-Day. Like many others, I am eternally grateful to those who fought for our freedom in the world wars. You don't have to watch all of the coverage. Watch some, put some cash in the charity box to pay respect. If certain people don't like it here, maybe they should go and live somewhere else. The old go and live somewhere else ploy. And then there was, where's that email gone about helping people out? It's a text. There we go, look. My father has a heart condition and collapsed on the sideline of a football pitch while watching a local match and was on his hands and knees. No one helped him. Oh dear. And it took him an hour to get home, which normally takes 15 minutes. You think if there was a bloke that collapsed onto his hands and knees next to you at a football match, you think at the very least you go, "You all right, fella? You all right? Do you need a hand? You sure? I don't mind." You think you'd do that, wouldn't you, at the very, very least? Your stories of being helped or not being helped, please. 03453 009956. Let's go to Cliff. Morning, Cliff.
Good morning, Ian. You have a very good show again. I think you're the cutting edge of Radio WM.
Right, can we... No, hang on a second. Producer Joe, can we clip that and make sure that's sent to my boss as my contract renegotiations are coming up soon? So just clip that, send that to him, and then I'll do the rest. Thanks very much. Thank you, Cliff. Excellent. I'll send you £50.
What's his name? I'll write to him. You can send me 100 instead.
No, that may actually backfire.
Right, I've got The World at War. It was remastered, and I bought it from a very well-known supermarket at a good price. But I can remember them in the 1970s as well, and I think Laurence Olivier did a very good commentary. If it had been somebody like Hugh Edwards, I don't think it would have been so good.
Oh, Laurence Olivier acted it. He performed that commentary, didn't he?
He did, yes. Yes, he was a very good actor. He could be very temperamental at times, but apart from that, I mean, is Henry V and is Hamlet and other things.
And his good. Nazi criminal in The Marathon Man and being Neil Diamond's dad in The Jazz Singer.
He could be very cold sometimes. He was like James Mason, a very slightly aloof, but very cold and hard
But
to
if
work
anyone,
with.
because they showed the whole thing on ITV. I was living in the flat, so it must have been about 3 or 4 years ago. If you've never seen The World at War, you can pick it up quite cheap. It's long, but it is just so wonderfully done. It's beautiful. No, it is beautiful. It's a beautiful representation of a horrific, piece of our history, and it's done magnificently.
And, of course, there are interviews with folks who were then in their 60s, so that they were, not saying anything against the old uns these days, but they were more fluent and their memories were more active, shall we say.
I think that's a very delicate way of putting it, yes.
Yes. As regards Mohammed, I think folks are not objecting to his viewpoint. I think they were objecting to the way he came on, all guns blazing. He even had to go at you, didn't he? So I think that he's entitled to his views, although I think he's wrong. I lost an uncle in the First World War who was 16. He lied about his age. And I lost my uncle in the desert who was a desert rat fighting Rommel. And I do think that a few days of coverage in this very cynical and instant gratification type of world we live in is not asking too much of folks. But what worries me, as Paddy Ashdown was saying, is that we do forget the lessons of history.
Oh, yeah.
In that Europe is now turning to the right again. Folks such as UKIP and Jean Le Pen, or whatever her name is, in France, want to separate into their own countries again, and that's where all the other trouble started.
Very quickly, listen, so we've got to move on. Just one thing, I think it was Mohammed raised, and this might bear a little bit of investigation. He suggested, I think it was him, suggested that the young people of today would probably do the same thing as the young men did 70 years ago if they were required to. Do you think they would?
I think in the main, yes. I've seen folks stop and help others. Kids have stopped and helped them.
But stopping and helping, there's a difference between stopping and helping and jumping off a boat right by the edge of the sea and storming onto a beach to go and try and kill Nazis. I don't know. I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I'd be prepared to sacrifice my life for my country, and I don't think a lot of younger people would either.
If we were ever invaded, I'd keep a couple of your broom handles sharpened, and if anyone came around here and tried to take my freedom away, like Corporal Jones said, they don't like it up 'em.
Thank you very much, Cliff. They do not like it up 'em, do they? Don't panic. My little boy, who's 4, right? If something goes wrong or we drop a plate or something, he now goes around going, "Don't panic, Mr. Mannering, don't panic!" He has no idea what he's referring to. Give us a call on that. We're going to be talking about astronomy. No, hang on, which is the proper one and which is the silly one? Astrology, that's the one. We'll be talking about astrology a little bit later on. Or is it astronomy? Oh, I can't remember. 03453 00 9956.
Inley.
On BBC WM.
95.6. The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Now, far be it from the Pope to say something vaguely controversial, but he's got a lot of people angry. He says that couples who have dogs and cats instead of children will end up lonely and bitter in old age. Is that true? What are the benefits of having a cat or a dog? I'd love to speak to you if you decided in your 20s, your 30s, that you weren't going to have kids, and now you're in your 50s, your 60s, and you're thinking, oh, wish we'd have kids. My godparents, my godfather and his wife, they decided not to have kids, and I saw them a couple of years ago for the first time in years. You fall out of touch with people, and they're in their 60s now, and they looked at my kids, and they were a bit, maybe we got that one wrong. Maybe we should have had kids. 03453 00 9956. Joined now by Jill Fraser, co-founder and director of the Walsall-based healthcare charity Kissing It Better, which has won the prestigious Nursing Time Award for the care of older people. Jill, what is Kissing It Better all about?
Kissing It Better is about sharing simple ideas in healthcare. I set it up about 4 years ago with a friend when my mother was in hospital, not in Walsall, I hasten to add, and she had sort of mixed care really, but what frustrated me was that there were some brilliant simple things, little gestures that nurses did that made a difference to my mother, but they were not shared in the same way. They didn't get to the next ward, let alone the next hospital as an idea. So we set up a website, which is a charity, to share simple things that make a difference. We invite everybody from healthcare professionals to visitors to patients, anybody who's created an idea, seen an idea, or experienced a simple idea that doesn't cost any money necessarily, that's made a difference to them, to tell us about it so that others can learn about it too.
Now, one of these simple ideas, have I got this right, Maisie the therapy dog?
That's right. She's one of
How
many
does that
therapy
work?
dogs. Yeah, well, basically what we've done, as we've moved the model on slightly to help drive those simple ideas through, we engage always wherever we work, and we work across the country now in hospitals and care homes. We draw a circle around the map of the catchment area of that organisation, whether it's a hospital or a care home, and we invite people from that community to come in and make a difference. And one of those groups are Pets as Therapy, and we've had an astonishing effect of people bringing in their dogs who have been prepared. They're not random dogs who've been through a bit of a course to check that they're not going to bark unexpectedly or bite anybody, to come in and provide therapy. It's wonderful to see an older person in particular, who maybe doesn't get many visitors, to suddenly see a dog and they light up. It's not just the pleasure that it gives them. You see them start to move more. They'd be lying in their bed and suddenly they stretch forward and they stroke the dog, and there's a communication between animals and people often that is different to the communication that they experience with other adults, and it's very moving to see.
Why is that, do you think? Why is there a different communication?
I think that in many cases, a patient who's maybe had a stroke, who's got dementia and is feeling a bit intimidated because relatives come in, particularly after a stroke, and they mean well, and some medical professionals say, you must say this, you must keep practicing these words, you must try and speak a bit more because their speech has been affected. And what we've seen time and again is you bring in a dog and somebody who doesn't speak because they've had some brain injury of some kind, suddenly you'll see them patting them and saying, you're a lovely boy, aren't you? Oh, you've got a beautiful coat on you. And the dog isn't challenging them in any way. They're not even thinking about talking to them. That dog is just with them, and there's such a bond often between people and their pets that it makes them speak completely without any sort of inhibition. And that's very moving to see, and very moving for the relatives to see that as well, when they realise actually that they do have speech and actually can communicate with the animal.
Have you never thought of therapy cats? I'm more of a cat person. I've never quite got dogs.
We do have therapy cats.
Cats sitting on someone's lap and you stroking it and it purring. Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, we go way beyond that. We have therapy cats. We even have, would you believe this, we've had a therapy cockroach.
Oh, no, you haven't.
Yeah, we really have. What we do is...
Hang on 1 second, Joe. Joe, I need to speak to my producer. You've got me a nut job, producer Joe. She's got a therapy cockroach. How does the cockroach work?
I tell you what we do. Wherever we work, we link with the most dynamic organisations to come in and make a difference to mutual benefits so that we hope that they get something out of it too. Often it's a college of further education. And following the success of the dogs, and we have used cats, we don't use cats in hospitals, we do use cats in care homes, we linked in with an animal care course. Down in Stevenage, actually, but we would also be doing it around here in the Midlands as well, where those young students come in with pets, and they might be an albino hedgehog or a little hamster in a box, sealed, please, these are not running amok. And again, with little children, we take them onto the wards, and these students tell them all about them. And you know how when you very first went to the zoo, you just stared, mesmerised at a weird sort of animal. Yeah. And these children literally come out of themselves because they're being told about them, they ask questions, and hissing Sid, the cockroach, spits. Well, I don't know.
Oh, that is disgusting.
But as a child, what do you love? You love something disgusting.
Yeah,
so
I
it
suppose
makes them smile. And so it doesn't have to be a dog. It could be, and most commonly we would use dogs and cats. Honestly, we really would. But we have extended that because what those students are getting is phenomenal work experience at the same time. They're having to explain to a particular audience what these animals are about, where they come from, why they're important as part of our lifestyle sometimes. And they're gaining and presenting to them, and the young children and adults, we take them into care homes as well, are just seeing something they wouldn't normally see. So we've had, I think it's the bearded dragon, the lizard, has gone into care homes.
Have you never lost any of these, Jill? You've never had to do an emergency call out for an albino hedgehog or a bearded dragon that's escaped?
No, we would be in serious trouble if that happened.
Good.
The whole point of doing it is that we do it incredibly safely. And please, I want to stress, if it is a cockroach, and that's very unusual, they are in sealed boxes. I don't think they can breathe for very long. We're very, nothing gets through without infection control in a hospital or a care home vetting us first. But actually, it's pretty easy to get a dog into hospital. We don't tend to catch dog diseases, and all these animals have had the basic jabs and all the things to make them safe. We talk in Kissing It Better about the greater good, and whether you're in hospital or in the community, there are huge benefits to having a dog or a cat because it's companionship.
Well, this is it. The Pope has said that couples who have dogs and cats instead of children will end up lonely and bitter in old age. But listen, I've got a cat. I've had my cat for 12 years. I think she's getting to the end of her life, bless her. But she's been a great companion at various down points in my life. And animals, they can be good companions. You can talk to them. You can communicate with them, can't you?
You can. I mean, I'm not going to get into the argument of judging, children versus pets, but in terms of the pets that we use, it is that complete unconditioned... They don't judge you in any way, so you can feel really fed up. You've had a terrible day. You're really sad, but your dog, we all know that, or your cat, gives you that look that makes, in many cases, you feel better about yourself because they're dependent on you. And as we grow older, we love the idea of... many people would say that when you get older, you feel you're useless. People feel they lose huge amounts of self-confidence. But a dog or an animal makes you feel you're still needed, that you're doing some good, and they reciprocate in bucket loads, animals, because they're so loving in so many cases. And there's lots and lots of research done that animals calm you down and generally are good companions. We're not trying to say you should replace them with your children. That's not what we're about.
No, sometimes, though, Jo, I don't know if you've got kids. I've got 2 boys, 4 and 2, and sometimes I'd like to replace them with animals.
Well, I'm saying nothing because I've got 3 and they're all in the house at the moment and they're listening to this. But yes.
Yes. Point taken.
It's what I think is amazing now is that people in their homes, I don't know how many people are aware, there's an organisation called the Cinnamon Trust, and if you're at home and you're struggling to look after your dog and thinking, I can't take it for walks anymore, in some cases I can't even really manage to look after even the basic needs, there's a wonderful charity out there that will come in and do that for you so that you can stay at home with your animal and get that support from them, and they will do all the bits and pieces that you can't manage.
And animals can also do great... Well, I was speaking to a woman in the week. She's got really bad diabetes that can come on at a moment's notice. She can have an attack at a moment's notice. And she's got a dog that can sniff when her sugar blood levels drop, and it kind of starts barking at her, saying, you've got to have some sugar.
Well, I mean, I haven't heard of that one, but I've certainly heard of, there's dogs for people who are deaf and all sorts of different dogs now who are trained to do those sort of things. Well, that's an invaluable asset. It's not only brilliantly helpful for that patient or that person, but it's fantastic reassurance for their relatives who maybe can't come in every day because they live a long way away, to have that knowledge that a dog is in there intelligently assessing when that person might need some help. Those simple things. That's really what Kissing It Better is about. Simple things that can make a staggeringly huge difference.
Listen, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. Fascinating stuff, and keep up the good work. Don't let that cockroach out in the hospital, for goodness sakes. That's Jill Fraser there, talking about animals. She's the co-founder and director of the Walsall-based healthcare charity Kissing It Better. Over to you, dear listener. Has the Pope got this one wrong? He says that couples who have dogs and cats instead of children will end up lonely and bitter in old age. Well, what do you think? First of all, I don't know how many children the Pope's got these days. Has anyone kept a tally? I've not seen him in Heat magazine that recently. Has he got it right? Has he got it wrong? Have you made the decision not to have kids, and then you've got to your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and then you've regretted it and thought, oh, actually, do you know what? I mean, yes, we've got an albino hedgehog and Benjamin Bunny, but I would have loved to have had a child. Do give me a call, 03453 009956.
BBC WM
95.6.
Oh dear, I've just... Do you remember ages ago we did a show about homeopathy? I've got homeopaths. No, hang on, anti-homeopaths having a go at me. Because that was ages ago. Get over it. Producer Joe, I'm going to forward you an email. Please forward my concerns to your producer, as I'm hoping that she will be willing to engage. My understanding was you were willing to engage on this issue, but instead you said nothing and remain happy with the show. I'm not sure if you've learned anything from the feedback or whether anything will change. Oh, for goodness sakes, delete, go away. Give us a call. Pets versus kids. If you've got kids, my boys are 4 and 2, and I love them dearly. Although last night they were getting right on my nerves. Right, I was sleeping in my bedroom and they were going to bed. Their mum was putting them to bed and then she was going to sleep. Because I was up early, she was going to sleep in the spare room. Lovely. And they kept wanting to shut my bedroom door. So the eldest one shut the bedroom door, and then the youngest one was outside crying. I want to shut Daddy's door. So I'd open the door, and then the youngest one shut it, but then the eldest one tapped it and went, I shut it. I wanted to shut... This was going on for like 15 minutes. In the end, I said, boys, just leave the door alone. Go to bed. And they cried, and I felt terrible. 03453 009956 is the phone number if you want to give us a call about kids versus pets. And I don't want to get into the dogs versus cats debate because there is no argument. There is no argument whatsoever. Cats every time. Dogs are awful, awful pets. Terrible pets. They're as thick as anything. They're so stupid. But you can train a dog to fetch a stick. You can't train a cat to do that because they're too clever. They realise it's a pointless exercise. Yes, I know that if I were to die in my house, eventually my cat would start eating me. I know that. Again, it just shows how intelligent they are. They're far more loving, they're far warmer than dogs, and they're far more independent. You don't have to walk them. You just have a cat flap, you put some food down in the morning, food down in the evenings, they'll go off and do the rest. Yes, they might be sick on your stairs every once in a while. Yes, they might leave a dead mouse in your bed, as mine did the other day. Apart from that, though, they're fantastic. Dogs are just vicious thugs. I'm right, aren't I? And you know I'm right. 03453 009956. Mohammed's in Yardley. Morning, Mohammed.
Hello, good morning to you. I am sorry you're not right this time.
Sorry?
You're not right this time, actually.
About what?
The dog is more clever than the cat.
Prove it. Tell me how.
And more loving. The cat is too arrogant.
The cat is very arrogant, but I think that displays an implicit intelligence. The dog, you can teach a dog to beg.
Yes.
Well, that's humiliating. A dog will humiliate itself for a tiny biscuit.
The dogs always they are very loyal indeed. The dogs are loyal. The dog will die in your bed if you are dead.
I don't want a dead dog in my bed.
Indeed, it will. If you see a documentary about 2011 about a dog which died in the man's bed, his companion, his life companion.
That's disgusting.
Indeed.
Why would you allow a dog on the bed? Yes, I'd allow a cat on the bed because she's clean, apart from when she's cleaning her backside in front of me. But dogs are filthy.
I am lonely. I would rather to have a dog rather than a human being at the moment.
Oh, Mohammed, you've disappointed me. But you've not called in about that. What have you called in for?
No, I've called about two things. About the Second World War and the First World War. There are two wars to stop all wars. What goes on the last century, I mean the latter half of the last century and this century, it's not a war to stop war. It's an aggressive war. It's a war made by politicians, not made by soldiers.
You're talking about Iraq and Afghanistan and those situations.
About Iraq and Afghanistan and what's going on in Crimea at the moment. It's next door. It's worrying. And in Syria.
Well, but hang on, is the situation in Crimea and Ukraine, I can understand why people are fighting in Crimea and Ukraine, because someone is trying to do what Hitler tried to do. Someone is annexing pieces of land and just saying, yeah, we'll take that, and we've got our eye on that. Iraq and Afghanistan, I don't quite know what they were about. They weren't about the Twin Towers. They weren't about fighting international terrorism. I don't know what they were for. But the situation in Crimea, I could understand why that could get nasty.
Exactly, you're absolutely right. I'm 100% with you. But it would. That's why you see the celebration this year. It gave the politicians two things to think about: a war and another Cold War. The leaders in France yesterday. It wasn't a plan made by politicians to meet, but the day made them think twice about other wars, a third world war.
Are you talking about Obama meeting Putin?
And Putin and other leaders to be there to see what happens in the Second World War. So to think twice what will happen if the Third World War occurs. If it occurs again, it will be disaster. there will be no life. It will be a nuclear war.
Mohammed, one of the things that struck me, and yes, isn't it great that Obama and Putin spoke? Let's hope something gets achieved from that. But there was big story in the news that David Cameron was the first European leader to talk to Putin since this had all kicked off. And he came out saying, well, I told him very strongly what I thought. I bet Putin was just laughing in his face. Imagine David Cameron saying, now, come on, Putin, you really need to stop this. You've been very, very naughty. As if Putin is going to listen to Cameron.
No, he will listen to nobody. He will listen to nobody. He will think, he will listen to I think he will listen to veterans more than may he listen to from the Western politicians.
Mohammed, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. It was big kind of puffing of chest. Well, David Cameron was the first European leader to speak to Vladimir Putin and tell him exactly how he felt. Now, come on, Putin, you're being very, very naughty. Stop it. OK, otherwise we'll freeze some more of your assets. Yeah, I've got all of your oil, though, David Cameron. Nuts. As if that's going to affect him. 03453 009956. Like Mohammed, made a lot of sense, apart from that nonsense he was talking about dogs. Why would you want a dead dog in your bed, Mohammed, you fool? And people who... Dogs are vicious. Dogs are like thugs, aren't they? They're vicious thugs. Whereas cats are like little old ladies. They're very sweet, and they'll sit on your lap. I'm not saying little old ladies do, but they're very sweet. They'll sit on your lap, you can stroke them, they purr, and then when they're bored, they'll go. They'll go. Whereas a dog is just like sat there. What can we do now? Yeah? What are we going to do now? Go outside? Yeah. OK. A stick? Yeah. Want me to beg for a biscuit? Yeah, I'll beg for a biscuit. I've got no shame. I'm a dog. Jill's on the line. Morning, Jill.
Good morning, Iain.
Jill, what would you like to say?
It's just with regarding to the D-Day coverage.
Yes.
I really feel... I was born in 1943, so
Blimey.
I remember part of 1945, 1946.
Hang on a second. If you were born in 1943, you can't remember 1945.
Can I not? I can.
Can you so? You can't. You were 2.
I can remember. It's part of it.
Do you remember it, or do you remember what you've been told about it?
Lifestyle after the war.
OK, OK.
But what I'm saying is, I really do feel that a strong part of the school's curriculum should be around the 2 wars. The reason is, I feel a majority of the youth today take for granted the lifestyle we have today in this beautiful island of ours is because of the sacrifices given by our soldiers in the First and Second World War. I really feel that should be a strong part of the curriculum to make them realise, as I've said, what a wonderful life we've got because of the sacrifices were made by the soldiers.
Is it going to mean anything to a 15-year-old, something that happened 70 years ago?
Well, what I'm saying is, if they saw what happened and realised how comfortable they live, really, perhaps it will jog them into thinking, OK, why are we not working? Why are we just slumming around when we've got all this given to us because of the sacrifices made? And I fully believe that.
But at what point do we kind of stop commemorating wars and events?
Never. Because we don't want a Third World War.
But there has to be some cut-off point. Listen, my history isn't great, so I'm struggling to think of specific examples. But do we commemorate Waterloo? Did we win Waterloo? I've got no idea. Do we commemorate do we commemorate the Battle of Hastings? How far back do we go?
Just interrupted, and I'm ever so sorry, Ian. He was being a bit rude, but he said, were you a soldier? That was very personal. He shouldn't have said that because but he was in the Royal Warwicks.
Yes.
And I had an uncle that went down with the HMS Coventry in the Second World War. He was a survivor with the HMS Coventry that went down in the Mediterranean in the Second World War.
Yeah.
My husband was...
dad went through Caen.
Yeah, his dad went through Caen and Falaise and came back a wreck. Absolute wreck, shell-shocked and goodness knows what. God love him. and his mother, her only brother, went missing and never found when we had the bombing in Coventry. And he was never found. So, you know, through history of our parents and the lifestyle I had after the war with rationing and everything else, and if we hadn't have won these wars and these lads hadn't have given their lives for this, we wouldn't be living like this today.
No, you're absolutely right. Jill, thank you very much for your call. 03453 009956. Is there a cut-off point? Is there a point where you go, well, hang on, that happened 100 years ago. There are no living survivors now. It was so long ago, we don't have to make such a big thing about it. Did she say she was born in 1942, 1943? She can remember stuff from 1945. I don't believe that. What's your first memory? I'll tell you my first memory. It's really, really boring. OK, it's really boring. I remember being 3. I remember being in my living room. Producer Joe saying, there's a surprise, your first memory boring, as most of them are. I was in my living room. I was crouching behind the coffee table, deep brown coffee table we had, crouching around it, holding onto the leg. I was looking at my mother, thinking, I am 3. Now, it's not the greatest memory. It's not your kind of opening of the third eye. It's not some huge traumatic boom that kicked in my mental synapses. It's just me looking around the coffee table thinking, I am 3. 03453 009956. Let's have your first memories. But before that, let's get the travel with Liz. Liz?
Thank you very much, Ian. Slightly better news on the M40 going north. They have righted that vehicle which overturned and cleared it out the carriageway at junction 15 at Longbridge Island, the A46. Traffic is easing off around there. We are getting reports of an accident, though, in Paleton around Lutterworth Road near Coventry Road. In Smethwick, police are still dealing with some sort of incident on Wellington Street, and therefore it's closed both ways between Franklin Street and Woodburn Road. So that's likely to cause you a bit of congestion. It's heavy in Birmingham around Ladywood Middleway, around Ladywood Circus and towards Spring Hill, the A457. You'll also find it's a bit congested close to Warner Street. Warner Street itself in the city is closed because of an event at Adam and Eve, the junction with Bradford Street. You'll also find a bit of congestion in Sutton Coldfield. Quite a few people heading towards the Race for Life going on at Sutton Park. Gets underway in about 15 minutes' time. The 5k run, that is. There is a 10k one later on this afternoon. Expect delays in Rugeley, several road closures in place because of the charter fair at Hagley Park, and there's a parade leaving Power Station Road and going around, and that's the reason why there'll be temporary road closures in place. If you can update us, call BBC WM 95.6 Travel 08453 002288.
Classic, live from Edgbaston, starts Monday on digital radio and online.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. I'm terribly sorry. I've had one of those tangy sweets. You know you get a big bag of tangy sweets. I've had some tangy sweets and my glass is empty. Producer Joe, some water, please. And I've now got a very wet mouth. And I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable. I apologise. That was a bad judgment call on my part, and for that I sincerely apologise. What are we talking about up until 11 o'clock? D-Day? Too much D-Day coverage? You're a little bit sick of it? An interesting side note. Do you think the young people now would risk their lives in a similar way for their country? I don't think they would. And that's not a moral judgment of them, because I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick up arms and go and fight against a foreign country. I don't think. I can't imagine a situation that I would do that. Do you think the young people would do that now? 03453 009956. We're talking about Good Samaritans as well, after we got a call from Margaret, who saw a chap collapsed in the street. No one went to help him. So she did. Has that ever happened to you? And also, the Pope has said, listen, guys, listen, if you've got cats and dogs, get rid of them, have kids. Get it on and have kids. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but that's pretty much the message. He said, if you don't have kids, you have cats and dogs instead, you're going to be old and lonely. Is that true? Is that fair? If you chose not to have kids, I'd love to hear from you. 03453 009956. Why you'd choose a dog over a cat, I've got no idea. Dogs are just the worst. Dogs are the worst pets you can get, particularly those big dogs, like Labradors and Golden Retrievers and Dalmatians. Why would you have something that big wandering around your house? Awful creatures. No, get a cat every single time. That cats are canny, cats are clever, cats are slinky. 03453 009956. Rob's in Northfield. Morning, Rob.
Hello, Ian.
Hello, Rob. What do you want to say?
About dogs and cats, really. I've got no preference to either. I have got a dog, but I help out at animal rescue, and I like the cats as well. But for you to say that dogs are stupid, not worth anybody's time, I'll give you a situation. Earthquake, mudslide, all these rescue teams go out. They don't take a cat with them, do they? They take a dog to find these people. End of argument, mate. End of argument.
No.
No, you said dogs are stupid. They can't do nothing. Fetch a stick.
Rob.
So there you go.
Rob, beginning of argument. Let me destruct your argument immediately. First of all, how often does that how often do we get landslides, Rob? How often does that happen?
No.
No. How often does that happen?
Stupid. You said dogs are stupid and they're no good for nothing. So
I didn't say no. I didn't say no good for nothing. I would have constructed my sentence in correct English.
If there's an earthquake or disaster in the world, these rescue teams go out and they take dogs to find survivors.
Okay,
they don't
Rob.
get on the plane and take a cat, do they?
No, they don't. But I'll get on to why that makes. Yes, okay. I'll get on to why that makes dogs even more stupid in a second. But the first point I made was, how often do we get landslides in this country?
I didn't say in this country. I said around the world.
Okay. How often do we get landslides around the world?
I don't know, mate.
So we don't know how often it happens. We don't know how often dogs are used for that.
Yeah, I'm just giving you the argument. In my opinion, the dogs are not stupid.
No, I've not got to the bit. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you've just proved to me dogs are stupid in a second. But we've already established there aren't that many landslides around the world that they take dogs to. So it's not an everyday occurrence, and the dogs are stupid because they're putting themselves in a life-threatening situation. They're prepared to spend a significant amount of their life being trained to smell people under mud, and then they go and put themselves in a life-threatening situation. A cat would never do that because they're too intelligent.
OK, then. Let's take it to the other argument, then. You don't see a cat on the end of a lead guiding a blind person. You don't see a cat listening for the phone, a talking dog, do you? When
exactly.
The phone goes, indicating to that person that the phone's going.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on, why would a deaf person have a phone?
Cats can't be trained, can they?
Rob, why would a deaf person have a phone?
Because you can get these phones that light up telling the person what they're saying on the other end. And the dog indicates that the phone's ringing. The dog
really? What? The words pop up on a screen?
That you get the dog that indicates that there's somebody at the door when the doorbell rings.
Why doesn't the phone? If they have phones that are so clever that can tell you the words that the other person is saying, why don't they just have a phone that lights up when it rings? Then you don't need the dog.
Mate. I don't know. I'm not talking about phones. I'm talking about the uses of dogs.
You did bring up phones with the greatest of respect.
The uses of dogs, Ian. Anyway,
yeah, you did bring up phones.
I've got to go now because I can feel myself getting into a conversation that I don't want to have with you because I think you're extremely rude to some corporate.
No, not in the slightest. I'm just saying that
you're very, very rude.
OK, thank you. The reason that you wouldn't have a cat leading a blind person or answering the door or answering the telephone is because they don't want to be trained.
Or the fact they can't be trained.
Well, no, because they don't want to be trained. They're too intelligent to be trained.
Nah, they ain't intelligent.
Well, hang on a minute. They're wildly independent. They get their own food. We let them go freely around our gardens and around our neighbourhoods.
Okay,
You don't trade a cat to sniff out bombs, do you?
Iain, you said cats are highly intelligent.
Yeah.
Is that correct? That's what you just said?
I said cats are highly intelligent, yes.
Yeah, right, OK. Then how many times do the fire brigade go out to rescue a dog stuck up a tree? Probably any, but they go out and rescue a cat, don't they? So there again, mate, end of argument.
Rob, I'll give you that one.
And good day to you, my friend.
Good day to you, my friend. I'll give him that one. He got me there. Thank you, Rob. You're a good sport, Rob. Thank you very much. Oh, you've made me chuckle, Rob. Thank you very much. OK, fair play. I'll give you that one. Pat's on the line. Morning, Pat.
Morning, Iain.
He was good, wasn't he?
Pardon?
Rob was good, wasn't he?
Yes, he was very good. At last we've had one sensible person on your show.
Oh, blimey.
And you're the worst.
Are you going to be the second sensible person, or...?
In my opinion, yes, but probably not in yours.
OK.
Because, quite frankly, I'm not going to wrap it up. You just talk a load of rubbish.
Oh, that's a bit rude. Pat, could you give me some
examples? If you want to pull the plug on me, I've got no problems with that.
I don't want to pull the plug on you. I'm hoping you won't put the phone down, because I'm keen to find out and learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, I've sat here and I've gone to the receiver several times and I thought, no, I can't be bothered.
No.
But, oh, dear me, what planet do you live on? Do you live on
I live on
Earth?
the planet Earth, Pat. I live on the planet Earth, yes.
You sure? You don't live on Cat Planet?
I don't think I live on Cat Planet, partly because I don't think there is a Cat Planet.
Well, if there was, you ought to go and live there.
Well,
you talk about dogs, so...
Yes.
Well, I can't find the words. What Rob said is so right.
Pat, can I give you an argument?
Are you going to let me finish? Are you going to keep me interrupting like you usually do?
How many times do we read in the newspaper of a cat mauling a child to death?
They lie on top of them, on the faces, on the...
How many times do we hear of an old woman being attacked
I know it's your
by
show,
a cat?
but don't you want people to ring in to give their opinions?
I'd like you to answer the question. When was the last time you read in the newspaper? When was the last time?
I'd like you to listen to me.
And I will do when you've answered the question.
No, I will not answer your question until you have the courtesy to listen to a caller.
When was the last time you read in a newspaper about a cat pulling a child's face off?
I am not going to answer your question until you have the courtesy to listen to a caller.
Because you can't answer the question?
I don't intend to answer it because you will not listen to a caller.
OK, I'll listen to you, Pat. Away you go.
You constantly interrupt callers week after week. I know you've got to be controversial. That's no doubt why WM pay your wages, but they're wasting their money, in my humble opinion. I had a little doggy. My late husband and I had her, and he died after being ill for 14 months. She was only 4 months. That little girl saved me. She was a Bichon Frise. She had 7 inherited conditions. Without her, I wouldn't be alive now, because I could have easily killed myself. She went everywhere with me. She knew what I was going to do, when I was going to do it. She anticipated everything. A cat would clear off and leave me. A cat would bring me a mouse back, a dead mouse back, or a dead bird, but not my little girl, not Holly. And I slept on her bed. She didn't sleep on mine. I took her everywhere with me. She was never left. She wouldn't go with anybody else. And what Rob said is quite right about the dogs. They do go into areas of danger. They've got the intelligence to be taught to go into the areas of danger, to save the lives of people, perhaps you one day, maybe me one day. And I didn't have children. I couldn't have children for the health side of things. But my time in life came when I was able to have a little doggy. But I should have had her for a lot longer than I did, and that was down to a human being's poor breeding. My little girl had 7 inherited conditions, and I'll never stop loving her. But I couldn't cuddle a cat like I could cuddle Holly, and she loved me. But she was very independent. She had a mind of her own. She didn't sit up and beg. She had no need to. You can continue now.
Did you know you're an internet sensation, Pat?
Really?
Yep. You know when you phoned up the other day about blue badges?
Mm.
And then we were joined by a gentleman who's, what was his name? Barry, from Watford.
Yeah.
That's gone on the internet and has been listened to by over 500,000 people around the world.
Good grief.
I know, isn't it incredible? I got an email from a friend in Australia saying, have you heard this clip from this radio show? And I said, yeah, that's me. And that's Pat, and that's Barry.
Uh-huh.
How does that make you feel?
Surprised.
Yeah,
I don't
know,
have
exactly.
the laptop. I don't have the internet.
Well, you're an
Yeah.
internet sensation, Pat, and thank you very much for defending your dogs.
Thank you. Thanks for
Ta-ta.
listening.
It's a pleasure. Ta-ta. There we go. 03453 009956. Pat's an internet sensation. If you go online and go to YouTube, I think it's on, and type in Iain Lee, Barry from Watford, Minty Biscuits, Blue Badges, something like that, it pops up. Honestly, it's had over 500,000 listens. But my mother-in-law sent me an email saying that her friend in Hong Kong had discovered it. So well done, Pat, and thank you very much for putting your point across. I hope you feel you did. I can hear how the dog has impacted on your life, but I say it again, I say it loud, I say it proud. Dogs aren't very clever. Cats are highly intelligent.
With full commentary of every Warwickshire cricket game this summer, exclusively online. bbc.co.uk/WM.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's 11 o'clock. Let's get the latest news now with Nicole Pullman.
A Wolverhampton pub doorman is fighting for his life after being stabbed in the early hours of this morning. Police were called to the Harp Inn on Warsaw Street at around 2:45 and found the 38-year-old with a knife wound. He was treated by paramedics at the scene and taken to hospital, where he's in a critical condition. The area has been cordoned off by detectives, who are now appealing for witnesses to come forward as soon as possible. The Environment Agency is warning that the storm over the West Midlands will cause flash flooding. There's been intense downpours of rain and hail, along with thunder and lightning, but the storm is slowly moving northwards. A yellow alert has been issued by the agency. The Education Secretary, Michael Gove, is expected to come under renewed pressure today in connection with the Trojan horse claims in Birmingham. The Shadow Education Secretary, Tristram Hunt, will accuse him of failing to act when he first heard the allegations that Islamic extremists were trying to influence teaching at schools in Birmingham. Ofsted has been investigating 21 Birmingham schools and is due to publish its findings on Monday. Our political correspondent Alan Sodhi says Mr Hunt will also argue for tighter controls over what happens in schools.
Some strong language going to be made by Tristram Hunt, Labour's Shadow Education Secretary today, and also he will argue that Ofsted, the education watchdog, should be given more powers to enforce a broad and balanced curriculum.
The new Ukrainian president has called on both separatists and nationalist groups fighting in the east of the country to put down their weapons. Speaking during his inauguration, Petro Poroshenko said he could not accept Russian annexation of Crimea, saying it was, is and always will be part of Ukraine, but he said he wanted to see peace and unity.
I don't want war. I don't want revenge. Even though I can still see the huge number of victims and sacrifice and casualties made by the Ukrainian people, I want peace, and I will make the unity happen.
UKIP is demanding more representatives in the House of Lords after its strong performance in recent elections. The former party leader, Lord Pearson, is accusing the government of dishonesty for failing to create new UKIP peers. And the D-Day veteran who went missing from his care home in Sussex on a mission to get to yesterday's commemorations in France has returned to the UK. Bernard Jordan, who's 90, decided to make his own way to Normandy when he was told it was too late to join an organised trip. Peter Curtis is from the Pines in Hove, where Bernard lives.
Bernard is on fine form. He came off and has tucked into a hearty English breakfast as soon as he got off the ferry, and then he came and met us and a couple of other of my team from the care home, who he was absolutely delighted to see. He was really on sparkling form.
The weather humid with thunderstorms and intense downpours of rain and hail. Drier and brighter this afternoon, although isolated heavy or thundery showers are still possible. The top temperature this afternoon, 20 Celsius, 68 Fahrenheit. Fresher tonight, though, with lows of 11 Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit. BBC WM 95.6 News. There's more online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
The Voice. The Voice.
The Voice.
The Voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
You should take in other religions and treat them as you would want to be treated yourself.
We are even more intelligent. They treated me with the utmost respect.
Iain Lee, Saturdays
9 till 12.
BBC WM 95.6.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC WM 95.6. It's feisty this morning. And it's interesting, you lot get really upset about odd things. Cats and dogs. Cats and dogs! And this is the thing I've noticed. Dog owners are... Well, they're more argumentative, aren't they? They're angrier. There's something... Cat owners are kind of very zen and, hey, man, we just sit back and we just let life happen and we'll do stuff, much like cats. Dog owners... How dare you say that about dogs? They get very, very upset. Yes, Rob did make a good point that... he made an excellent point about how often do fire brigades have to go and rescue dogs from trees. Yes, I'll give you that, sir. But we all know cats are better than dogs. It's a fact. It's a fact. They're more intelligent than dogs. You don't get cats being trained as bomb sniffer cats because, well, they don't want to risk their lives. And when was the last time you opened your newspaper to find that a Persian had ripped a child's face off? Or mauled an old lady? Doesn't happen. 03453 009956 is the phone number. We're talking about CCTV in a little bit. Asking, do you think there's too much of it? There's a protest taking place in Birmingham, a rather odd protest taking place in Birmingham. We'll find out about that. But the big story, the big talking point this morning has been the D-Day coverage. Well, I kind of threw it out there as a side thought. Has there been too much? One or two of you think there has been too much. Give me a call, 03453 009956.
Have your say.
Across the West Midlands, call
03453 009956.
BBC WM 95.6.
Oh, look, here we go. It's a sad story about cats. Stay there, Ranjit. Stay there, Cyril. Come to you in a second. My wife is still distraught after we had to put down our darling little cat nearly 4 weeks ago. She was a constant companion, supervised the cleaning lady, and was such a positive presence. She chirruped and crooned, didn't bark or whine. She took an interest in everything. Intelligent, infinitely more than some of your callers, says Chris in Halesowen. I couldn't possibly comment on that. And yes, I can understand the supervising the cleaning lady. No doubt the cat would have just sat there and watched. Just watched and made sure that the cleaning lady didn't miss anything. They take it all in. They take it all in. Cyril's on the line. Morning, Cyril.
Morning. Just a quick...
You a cat... Sorry?
I just want to put something at rest. I want to assure Mohammed that he can sleep easy tonight because the Normandy Association is finished. So he won't be seeing that on that television again. So he can rest easy. He won't have to go through all the trauma of watching the television.
Now, this is the organisation...
Can I say one thing more?
Yeah, go on.
So I think sometimes, you know, some people should be a bit more grateful for what those people did. After all, if they hadn't have done that, he wouldn't have been in England attending his mosque. That's all I want to say now. The association's finished. He won't have to go through the trauma of watching those old people.
Cyril, let me just clear up for some people who may have missed it. This was Mohammed who called in right at the start of the show, just after 9 o'clock, and he answered the question that, yes, he thought there was too much coverage of the D-Day commemorations.
Yes,
I'm not quite sure what his religion has to do with it, though, Cyril.
Well, it's Mohammed, isn't it?
Yeah, but what's his religion?
Have you not made the connection? Anyway, all I want to say...
No, hang on a second.
Irrespective of that, puts his mind at rest because next year they won't be there. He won't have to suffer watching the television to see all those old people tell the story.
You've made that point.
He can rest easy now. He can go to bed without having to trouble that.
Okay.
So I would just say...
No, hang on, Cyril.
I think some people should be a bit more grateful for the freedom that they've been given.
Some people should listen a bit more as well.
I'm not going to argue anymore.
No, Cyril, don't put the phone down. Don't put the phone... You put the phone down. Oh, dear. The point of the phone-in show... Do I have to do the basics? OK. The point of the phone-in show is you phone up and we have a discussion. And it might get a little bit heated, and we might disagree, and you put your point, I put my point, and we're allowed to interrupt each other every now and then. But what I really don't like, the hit and run, okay, the smash and grab, where someone phones up, says something, is picked up on it, and refuses to then justify it. Mohammed called in earlier on to say he wasn't keen on the amount of coverage. Fair play. Now, Cyril there has made the assumption that Mohammed is Muslim. It's an assumption. It's probably probably a good one. And then he mentioned the Mohammed going off to pray in his mosque. I couldn't see the connection, Cyril, and I think it's pretty poor show to have mentioned it and then not to have explained it a little bit better. Okay, pretty poor show. I'm going to give you 2 out of 10 for that, Cyril. I know you can do better. I know you can do a lot better, and hopefully next time you will. I don't like the hit and run. Ranger, you're not going to do a hit and run on me, are you?
Hello.
Hello, Ranger. Are you going to do a smash and grab, say something, and then put the phone down?
Listen,
Good for you.
You lot always do a smash and grab with me, because when I'm being a bit controversial and I put you guys on the rope, you cut me off, so don't cut me off today.
I don't think I've ever cut you off, have I?
No, you fade me out. Oh, we're going to the news, we're doing this.
No, I don't think I've done that. Maybe on other shows. I don't think I've done that.
Okay.
Go on.
Listen. Right, I want to make a few points, yeah? The first point is you work for the BBC, yeah? Which is funded by the licence fee payers, yeah? So what, in radio terms, is... describe what a plug means.
Like a what?
What does a plug mean when someone wants to give a plug to something?
A plug is where someone promotes an event or a product.
Advertises.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Very loosely, yeah.
Now, don't cut me off then, yeah?
You stop bagging on about me cutting you off, Ranger. I'm not going to cut you off.
Okay. So why have you got a upper-class millionaire advertising his book on the radio? That's the first point I want to make. And it happens all the time on the BBC. You're promoting events at the NEC which are profit-making. If he was giving a plug, right, to the D-Day landings or something charitable, I would never object. So why can you explain in your own words you had a millionaire advertising his book this morning?
Why do you object to that?
Because I'm a licence fee payer.
Yeah.
If I want to listen to a commercial radio and advert, I would listen to BRMB or something else. But I choose to listen to the BBC, and I listen to it for about 15 hours a day while I'm at work.
Okay, so you don't object that much then?
That question, please.
No, so you don't object to it that much then?
No, I don't object to it because, generally the programmes are very good. They are very good, yeah? And you've caused controversy this morning, and obviously me and you are on a point of where I feel, I'm not happy about that because you're letting a millionaire advertise his book.
What's the fact he's a millionaire got to do? For those who don't know, Paddy Ashdown came on at the start of the show to tell us a book he's written about D-Day. What's the fact he's a millionaire got to do with it?
You're avoiding the... Okay, forget it was Paddy Ashdown. He could have been...
No, Ranger, we're getting towards the answers. Sometimes we need to take a little journey.
Yeah.
What's the fact he's a millionaire got to do with it?
He's a millionaire. He could plug his old... He could have billboards, pay for billboards, advertise his book.
Okay.
But
would you object if he wasn't a millionaire? If he was a pauper?
I wouldn't object as much, no.
So you're objecting to the fact that he's got money? You're jealous?
No, I'm not jealous. No, you're putting words into my mouth.
But if a homeless man came on to plug his book, that would be okay. The fact this bloke's a millionaire, that's not okay.
So, you know the guy that the Big Issue. I mean, he's quite loaded, yeah. You let him plug his things.
No, I didn't.
Because he's helping people.
No, I didn't. I've not let him plug anything.
Other programmes, they do.
Okay, well then you can't. The thing is, you can't generalise. You have to. If you're going to speak specifically about me, then when you say you, I'm going to assume you mean me.
Okay, the radio station, yeah. But and I'm not on the roads with you at the moment, yeah. What I'm saying is,
you will be on the ropes in a minute.
D-Day, yeah. Okay. Yeah. But the thing is, the BBC plugs a lot of things, right, which are money.
I'm not Ranger, I'm not the BBC. You need to speak specifically about me in this show.
Okay, there'll be another time when you plug somebody else and I'll phone again and I'll bring it up to your attention again.
Let's focus on this specific incident today. So if it had been a homeless person that had written a book, That would have been OK to come on. He's a millionaire, so that's not OK. Did you not think that the story he was telling was relevant to what we were talking about?
I'll be honest with you, I missed that first part of
No,
you can't,
no, Ranjit! You didn't listen!
Yeah.
You didn't listen! You're
listened,
phoning
I
up.
missed that bit.
You're
What I'm on about
phoning
is
up.
plugging the book, yeah?
You're phoning up to have a go about something you didn't actually hear.
Okay, listen to what I'm saying.
Argument over.
Okay. Look, let's get on to the D-Day
Argument over, Ranjit. You
let's get
cannot.
D-Day celebrations then,
No,
yeah?
No, Ranjit, no. You're about to do a hit and run.
No, I'm not.
You cannot. You have no right to phone up and complain about something you didn't hear because you have no idea of the context, you have no idea of the direction of the conversation, you have no idea what Lord Ashdown was saying, and also, with the greatest of respect to Lord Ashdown, a book called The Cruel Victory about the French resistance during the Normandy landings, I reckon he'll sell 300 copies.
No,
We may have sold him an extra 2 copies today. It ain't going to make him loads of money, mate. It's a really good historical story.
Let's change the artillery. Forget it was Paddy Ashdown, right? When you guys, or you or anybody else on the BBC plugs anything, yeah?
You didn't hear it, Ranjit. You can't comment.
No, I didn't hear that one, but I've heard plenty of others.
No, but not with me you haven't. You've not heard any others with me on this show.
Yeah? Okay.
Do you admit defeat?
No, I don't.
Well, but I think you have to before we can move on, because you're talking about the BBC in general. I have no idea about the incidents you're talking about. It's very rare. Very rare on this show. It's very, very rare, Ranjit, on this show. We will have people unplugging stuff. The only reason producer Joe and I decided we'd get Paddy Ashdown is because his book is about D-Day.
Okay. I will agree to disagree on this one today.
Well, Ranjit, I'm not. Listen, we have to go to the travel in a second, and I'm not a fan of agreeing to disagree because you know you're wrong. You cannot phone up and criticise something you didn't hear.
Okay, all right, okay.
Ranjit, thank you very much indeed. 03453 009956. Ooh, that was fun. It's 11:15. It's BBC WM 95.6. Let's get the travel with Liz.
Thank you, Ian. I wish I could say it was fairly calm and peaceful on the roads. However, there are quite a few problems to report. We are getting word of an accident on the A38 around the Branston interchange. Not quite sure which direction it is, but certainly by the A5121 junction. Police tell us they're on the way to the scene. Lutterworth Road in Pelton has been shut by police in both directions because of an accident they're dealing with at the junction with Coventry Road involving 2 vehicles. Warner Street in Birmingham is closed. There's an event going on by the junction with Bradford Street. It's going to stay shut until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. In Smethwick, Wellington Street is still shut. Police dealing with an incident there between Franklin Street and Woodburn Road. Not too bad otherwise around the city, around Birmingham. However, the weather's rather inclement once again, so an awful lot of surface water and puddles around on the main routes and carriageways around Birmingham and the Black Country. And Sutton Coldfield, expect a few delays with the Race for Life's going on there today, likely to be rather soggy, but look, good luck to everybody taking part in that charity event. In Rugeley, there's several road closures from about midday today because of the Charter Fair taking place and a parade going on, leaving the Power Station Road area from Hagley Park around 12 o'clock. If you can update us, 08453 002288.
Nobody wore a helmet until into the 1915s. Before that, they were just wearing ordinary hats or caps, I think.
World War I on the BBC.
Britain only had, at the start of the First World War, 80 motorised vehicles. The horse was the backbones of the war effort.
BBC WM reveals the untold stories of World War I in Birmingham and the Black Country.
Morris was not only an extremely brave man, he was such a kind man. In 1915, against the wishes of his commanding officer, he went over with his walking stick and his Macintosh.
World War I at home on BBC WM 95.6. Listen again online at bbc.co.uk/WM.
Morning, this is Iain Lee. BBC WM 95.6. I'm enjoying myself today. It's feisty. No doubt Ranjit will take that as a victory for himself in that we cut him off, but he was going on for... You can't complain about something you haven't heard. It's ridiculous. Phoning up that Paddy Ashdown was coming on to promote his book. Well, you didn't hear the conversation. It was completely relevant to what we're saying and what's been happening the last couple of days. Ranjit, I shall no doubt speak to you next week. CCTV, what are your thoughts on that? Are you a fan of it? Does it make you feel safer? Or do you think there's too much of it? Well, tomorrow a protest is taking place in Birmingham against the use of CCTV cameras, one of the many happenings around the world, and coincides with the anniversary of the publication of George Orwell's novel 1984. Well, we can speak to Charles Farrier from the campaign group No CCTV. Morning, Charles.
Morning.
Charles, what's your beef with CCTV?
Well, it's not just CCTV, it's all levels of surveillance, really. I mean, it's 65 years since George Orwell published his novel, 1984. And on Action Day, we want to raise awareness of these levels of surveillance and make people start thinking about, is this appropriate to live under this much surveillance?
Why do you think it may not be appropriate?
Well, there's no evidence that this is improving anybody's lives at all. We're just increasingly just removing freedoms, but for very little in return. I mean, the way the government policy seems to work on this stuff nowadays is you commission a study, it says it doesn't work, then they say, what should we do? And they say, so do more of it. And that's what we're seeing all the time, just more and more and more surveillance, trying to get to these goals which were never achievable and just giving away our freedoms.
What freedoms are being taken away?
Well, with CCTV, it's freedom of movement, freedom to be left alone. I mean, we used to understand in this country, and it was a very important thing about the right to be left alone. It was this thing that if the state, if you'd not done anything wrong, not hurt anybody, the state had no business interfering with your affairs. Nowadays, we turn this on its head. We say, nothing to hide, nothing to fear. Well, that's the complete opposite. What used to be understood, a policeman couldn't stop you in the street and ask to see your papers. In fact, if a policeman stopped you, you would ask to see his papers. If a man knocked at your door and said, I'm a policeman, you say, prove it. But we're moving into a world where everything is monitored, surveyed, watched, and that we're all under suspicion the whole time as though we're all criminals.
My freedom isn't altered in any way by the introduction of CCTV cameras, is it?
Well, of course it is. It may be that you don't consider that a problem, but of course it is. Just the fact that you're being watched and recorded. I mean, this is part of the thing. We'll be out on Sunday doing this. So much surveillance is invisible that you are not aware of it. We'll be out doing street theatre. If you're walking down the street and a man in a suit with a CCTV camera on his head is following you down the street, then the creepiness of surveillance starts to become clear. You're not aware of surveillance just because you can't see it. But if a man in a black coat followed you down the street and wrote down everything you did, you would think that is odd.
But it doesn't impact on my freedom. I can still walk out of here and go to the Bull Ring, and then I can go back to the mailbox, get my car, and I can drive off to Coventry and get out. It doesn't impact my freedom unless I'm doing something wrong.
But I think you just walked into that beautiful line there, just snuck that in very lightly, very nice. No, this whole idea, if you think about that, a policeman can now, the state can now say to you, where were you on Thursday afternoon on the 17th of April 2 years ago? Now, I bet you would say, I don't know. But they can say to you, well, we do. And I think that's creepy. I think that's wrong. When the state
but again, I don't understand how that's impacting on your freedom. And why is it creepy? If you haven't done anything wrong, why isn't it creepy? If you had been out committing a murder, then it's great that they know that, isn't it?
If you don't understand, what you're saying is you don't understand what freedom is, then, in other words...
No, define freedom to you, for you.
If you're not doing anything wrong, why is it anybody's business to be involved in your life? Why do you say that the state's okay to follow you, but not? Why would you be happy?
But you're making the assumption, aren't you, Charles, that the state are interested in what everybody is doing. They're interested in me going to Tesco's, then they're interested in me popping into Boots. They're not. They're only interested if in between Tesco and Boots I kick an old woman in the knees.
No, if that were true, then explain to me why. And I've met with policemen and asked them this very question. If they're not interested in us, why are they recording this data? We have an ANPR network in our country, number plate recognition cameras, to track every car that goes past it, stored in a database for 2 years. Every car, not criminals, not bad people, no one suspected, everybody. And I've said to the police, you can do that job without storing that data. And they've said to me, that's not really what we do it for.
So why do you think they're doing it?
Because they want to pattern match on people. They want to use computers to process things. So they stop saying, where are you going? They say, who went to Sainsbury's on a Wednesday? Who goes here? Who does that? They run this...
Why would the police want to do that?
Because they can start using computers to solve crime. They think.
Right.
So they're starting to run pattern matching on behaviours and say, well, people who do this type of thing are more likely to commit crime. And that starts to shape society. It starts to create normalised behaviour. So they might decide people who go to Tesco's on a Wednesday are more suspicious than people who go on a Thursday. So we'll put more police on a Wednesday. And that starts to...
so that could prevent crime?
Sorry?
So that could prevent crime.
At what cost, though? At what cost? You see...
But it's no cost to me, Charles. That's the thing I don't get. It's no cost to me because I'm not doing anything wrong. Film me as much as you want. If it makes me safer, if it makes the streets safer, if it prevents crime, beautiful.
But if a policeman knocks on your door one day and says, you've been matched in a computer because 2 years ago you were at this particular place and you've got no idea whether you were there or not because you don't store 2 years of information, you then have to prove your innocence. You will then have to fight the system to prove your innocence.
When has that ever happened?
Of course it happens. We hear all the time. This stuff
When has a policeman knocked at someone's door and said, you were at this place 2 years ago, so therefore we think you've committed a murder, now it's up to you to prove your innocence. By the way, we haven't got any evidence. That wouldn't go to court.
Well, things do go to court. There's some shocking...
Without any evidence?
I mean, we hear about stuff like this happens all the time. Don't forget, CCTV, there are people at the sharp end of CCTV. There was a pop group in Britain who were loading the guitars into the back of their van after a gig. A CCTV camera man spotted them, said it was guns. They were arrested at gunpoint. The police came at gunpoint, held guns to their head. They were told not to move and to put their hands on their heads. They were completely terrified. They were then put in police cells and held for something like 18 hours without access to a lawyer. They only had guitars. Now, how long did it take to
Were they charged? Did they go to court without any evidence?
They are in an action about trying to prosecute the police.
OK, so they didn't go to court. So your point isn't valid. No one has been to court without any evidence.
You can't undervalue that. They were terrified, these chaps.
Hey, listen, I've been stopped by the police for stuff that I haven't done. I was scared. That stuff happens. That stuff happens.
It happens to be have a gun held at your head by policemen.
If the police thought they had guns, then well done them.
But these were innocent people.
The police don't get it right all the time.
Well, and that's the problem. And what we're saying is the more that you put this technology in to start allowing the police to make it wrong, the more dangerous a world we're going to live in. And
what evidence do you have that there have been more incidents of the police getting it wrong because of CCTV?
Well, I've just given you one.
But what evidence do you have that that the police are getting it wrong more often than they were before CCTV? Where are the stats?
I don't have them to hand at the moment, but I can tell you the stats don't work the other way. I can certainly tell you the stats don't work for saying that CCTV is more effective as a crime.
That's not what I asked. I asked for the evidence that the police are getting it wrong more often because of CCTV.
Well, it makes sense they must be because
well, no, if it makes sense, but you haven't got any evidence to correlate that with.
Well, I've got the evidence of that particular case, which I've just told you about, which you seem...
No, but you haven't got the evidence.
Another case. No,
I don't want another case. I want the figures. I want the figures, Charles, that prove that the police have been getting it wrong more often since the introduction of CCTV.
Well, I don't have... so you're saying police are just bad and we should accept police are bad?
No, it's not what I'm saying. No, what I'm saying is there any evidence? Are there any statistical evidence that the police get it wrong more often because of CCTV? That CCTV is to blame for more mistakes?
Well, no, I don't have statistical evidence, but I don't think you can negate everything I said just simply by that, because I think...
I'm not negating everything you said, I'm just highlighting a point. Listen, Charles, where and when is the protest and how's it happening?
It's going to be in central Birmingham on Sunday from about midday, and it's believe it or not, it's about having a bit of fun and about just making people think about this stuff. And it'll be around somewhere towards the end of Broad Street in the centre of tomorrow in Birmingham.
I hope, Charles, you're a good sport. Thank you for coming on. I hope the weather picks up for you. 03453 009956. I'm never quite sure about CCTV cameras. Does it bother you? The number of CCTV cameras, does it make you uncomfortable? Do you feel that your freedom is being impinged? Yeah, it's bad that those musicians had guns pointed to their head. It must have been terrifying for them. The police are going to get it wrong. Better safe than sorry? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, please. 03453 009956.
BBC WM
95.6.
Ken, are you there?
Yes, Ian, yes.
Good morning, Ken. What would you like to say?
Good morning. Well, first of all, if that gentleman's still listening, I believe his name is Charles.
Yeah.
Is that may I make a suggestion that when he comes onto a radio programme to state his facts, that he has the figures correlated there, and then so he can back them up, and not keep saying, "Well, I haven't got those figures. I haven't got those figures."
Well, in fairness to Charles, he didn't know the questions I was going to ask, and maybe the conversation went off in a slightly different direction to that he was expecting.
The thing is, you can more or less say, if I'm going to go onto a radio programme and talk about a specific subject, you get yourself boned up on that subject so you can come back with the answer. But the thing is, though, I can't understand why he was sat. I really want to have a chat with him as well, because the amount of crimes that have been solved with CCTV far outweighs any mistakes that they've made with CCTV. I mean, look at the Jamie Bulger, rather.
Yeah.
Those kids are trapped by CCTV. You see it on these fly-on-the-wall programs where CCTV operators have seen something happen outside a pub at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they've been able to track those people to lead the police to them. If I'm walking down the road, it's not like what you said. If you go to Tesco's on a Wednesday, you like to be able to be safe from your house to Tesco's and back again. If you're walking down the road and you're kicking a lady in the knee, then you're going to get arrested, and fair play, because you've been caught on CCTV. Bang to rights. And I've never heard of a policeman knocking on anybody's door and saying, 2 years ago, laddie, you was in such a place and we're nicking you for murder.
I do think it's a slightly lazy argument, but I do think it holds true in this. I ain't doing nothing wrong, so I don't mind being filmed.
Exactly, neither do I. You know, that pop group, okay, they didn't have guns put to the head. They probably had firearms aimed at them at a distance by highly trained, qualified firearms officers. And then, obviously, when it was all sorted out, yeah, fair enough, okay, wrongful arrest. Or not wrongful arrest, mistaken. We thought your guitars were weapons. Okay, it's all done.
And fair play. In that situation, if they were in the cell for 18 hours, then that does seem ridiculous, because all it takes is for the police to go through those guitar cases and go, oh, look, it's just guitars, we made a mistake, sorry. So 18 hours seems a bit excessive, but
I think that,
better safe than sorry.
If that's true.
Yeah.
But you know, the more cameras, for me, it's keeping me and my family and the people who I love safe.
Ken, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Tom in Dudley. Morning, Tom.
Morning.
Too many CCTV cameras?
No, not at all. I think they're a good idea. I think the only people who might object are people who've got something to hide, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've seen many TV programmes and documentaries on CCTV where they stop, like the last guy was saying, major criminals and helping, all sorts of crime and keep people safe on the streets. I mean, I have no problem, and a 27-year-old guy who worked in Birmingham for years, and I know that people are watching me all the time, but I've only ever been stopped by police if I've done something wrong, e.g. speeding or something. You know, I've never been stopped innocently.
I was pulled over a couple of months ago. I drive to work about 4:30 in the morning. I got pulled over by the copper, and as always in those situations, I was terrified. You know, even though I'd done nothing wrong, I was terrified. And he just had a chat with me and said, you know, that some cars had been stolen in that area recently. Had I seen anything? Have a nice day, sir, on your way. And I don't object to that. I don't object to being filmed. I don't object to any of these things. If I'm not doing anything wrong, if I'm not attacking people, if I'm not selling drugs, or if I'm not, you know, I don't mind being filmed.
Yeah, same here, yeah. I mean, I think I was about 17 and I got stopped searched there once, and there was obviously, I'd done nothing wrong, but I just complied with the police, and I felt, in a way, I felt safer because I felt like they were doing something, you know what I mean? Like, so obviously they were stopping just teenage men, which I suppose people sometimes have problems with, but for me, I hadn't done anything wrong, so I had nothing to worry about.
Tom, thank you very much indeed. Tom, excellent stuff. 03453 009956. You talk about having the police put guns at you. I've been in a more terrifying situation. Yes, was in a dark alleyway in Pakistan. Don't ask. With a gentleman in a tuk-tuk. You know those little buggies. And 3 members of the Pakistan army just came out of the middle of nowhere, ordered me out of the tuk-tuk, pointed a really rubbish old Chinese rifle at my chest, and then started having a go at me in a foreign language. Oh, that was fun! There's me with my hands up going, I know, I'm English, I don't speak. The gun was in my chest. Oh, because the Pakistan army, yeah, they're really trustworthy guys, aren't they? Yeah, they don't make people disappear just for the sheer heck of it. 03453 009956. I love doing this show because it's just such a mixed bag. We're going to go from CCTV... This is the journey we're going to take in the next 5 minutes, OK? From CCTV to dogs to D-Day. Isn't that wonderful? Keith's in Northfield. Morning, Keith.
Morning.
Keith, what would you like to say?
You don't see as many dead dogs at the side of the road than you do cats.
So who's more stupid about crossing roads?
What a horrific image to put in my mind. No, the reason you don't see as many dead dogs by the side of the road is because they've got leads on them. They're not intelligent enough to go off on their own.
Because they know it's better to stay in the nice warm house.
Oh no!
Than go, out chasing mice.
If you left your front door open, right, your dog would be off and it would be lost and it would go feral. They are as thick as anything. They're unattractive. They're not... imagine this, Keith. Imagine this. You're sat at home, you got your feet up on the puff, you're watching EastEnders, and suddenly Tiddles comes in and sits on your lap. You start stroking him and he starts purring. Magical.
Yeah, and he's just come out from outside and he's got fleas from other cats and all that lot. So
my cat has never had fleas. She's never had worms. She's never had anything.
But you're the one that looks after it. You know, so you treat your cat like your dog. You do.
What? No, I treat my cat like my kids, with love and affection. Whenever I'm feeling depressed, Keith, which is quite a lot recently, whenever I'm feeling depressed, my cat comes and sits with me. She knows I'm feeling down, and she comes and comforts me.
So does my dog. Well, my dog used to. I can't have a dog now.
Why not? Did you get banned?
No, because I've got illnesses that I can't look after a dog to take it for walk.
Oh, that must be quite tough for you then.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you miss your dog?
Yep.
What was your dog called?
Lucky.
Well.
And he was lucky because I had him 18 years.
Well, good for you. Good for you. And I'm sure he provided a lot of companionship.
Yeah.
Thanks for your call. Listen, go and get yourself a cat. Go and get yourself a cat.
No.
Go and get a cat!
No!
Keith, see you later. Thanks for your call, mate. 03453 009956. Talking about cats and dogs because of the Pope saying, listen, if you have cats and dogs and you don't have children, in your old age, you're going to be lonely. How many kids has the Pope got? Simon's in Burton. Morning, Simon.
Good morning.
Simon, what would you like to say?
Well, you had that caller on Cyril who sort of did a hit and run.
Oh, yeah, Cyril made a point and then he slammed the phone down and wouldn't respond to it, yes.
But the problem is you were saying you didn't get the point, right, of what he was saying.
He mentioned Mohammed, who said there'd been too much D-Day coverage. He then went on to say, well, Mohammed can come over here and he can pray in his mosque because of those guys, and I didn't quite see the relevance of bringing Mohammed's religion into it.
Well, the relevance is, if it wasn't for those guys going over there fighting, there's a strong possibility we'd still be under some sorts of Nazi law, and people like Mohammed and other people, the Polish and Asians and other denominations, and wouldn't be here at all. They wouldn't be allowed to, right? Now, we live in a multicultural, multi-religious society, yes? And what he was trying to say, really, without trying to sound racist or anything, was that the fact was if them men and those brave people didn't put their lives on the line to win that war, people like Mohammed wouldn't be over here anyway and be given the freedom, to worship their religion or to live in this country.
So why do you think Cyril didn't stick around to... Yeah, why do you think Cyril didn't stick around to say that then, if that was his point? You've expressed that point very well. Why did Cyril not want to do that?
No, I've got no idea why he didn't do that, but I was just ringing up just to say I think that was the point that Cyril was getting at, And if Mohammed doesn't want to watch old D-Day and television, just turn the television off.
But isn't that one of the beautiful things about this?
When these people come and live over here...
Well, hang on.
They've got to put up with our television. End of. If they don't like it, turn the bloody thing off.
Simon, you don't know where Mohammed's from?
Well, he's obviously living in England, isn't he? He's round here.
Yeah, but you said he's come over here. Where's he from?
Well, I don't know, or his relatives have come over here. Whatever.
But you don't know he might. His fact. No.
No, the point I'm trying to make it. Turn the telly off. Right. The problem is...
No, the point you've made, Simon...
We're too soft on people. They all want to come here, and when they get here, they moan about it.
But Simon, where is... You obviously have one up on me. Where is Mohammed from?
I don't know. Maybe Birmingham, I don't know.
Well, so why? I don't know. So why are you saying he wants to come over here? I don't get. I don't get that point.
Okay, maybe not him personally. Maybe his relative, right?
Okay, where are his relatives from?
Descendants. Well, obviously not here originally.
Why?
Why? Because, I don't know, 100 years ago, that there was no Asians in the country, were there? There was no Poles in the country. That and the other.
Do you know where Mohammed's from? I've just been told where Mohammed's from.
I mean, settling and living here. Do you know what I mean?
I know where Mohammed's from. I've just been told.
Right. Okay. That's fine. That's fair enough. He's probably as English as I am.
He's from Ireland.
And what have you?
He's from Ireland.
Well, Ireland. That's all
He's
right.
Irish. He used to be called Sean.
Right.
So I'm just interested as to why you're jumping to such assumptions and such conclusions. And also, the other point is, surely one of the great things that the freedom we've been given because of those men who sacrificed themselves 70 years ago is that we can phone up and be critical of the government. We can phone up radio stations and be critical of the television. We can be critical of anything we want.
Yes,
and that's a great freedom,
and
isn't
also,
it?
One of them other freedoms, because of those great people that laid down their lives for us, that they are free to live here, whoever they are, in a multicultural, multi-religious, multiracial society. Do you get me? And that
I think I do get you. I think I do.
Do you get where I'm coming from? I'm not being racist by saying that, but what I'm saying is, if people do not like what they're watching on the TV, turn it off.
That is definitely not a racist statement. No.
As far as I'm concerned, and the majority of people over this country, I should imagine, they want to celebrate D-Day. They want to give some respect to the brave souls who laid down their lives to make this country what it is, which is free.
Simon, thank you very much. Simon, calm down. Thank you very much. You sound like you're going to give yourself a hernia or something. So just calm down. It's interesting the assumptions that we make about people because of their names, isn't it? And the assumptions of their background. If you don't like the TV over here, switch it off and go and watch it elsewhere. I'm not being racist, but 03453 00 9956.
Iain Lee
on BBC WM
95.6.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
Where are we now? Last 20 minutes of the show, so if you want to give me a call, now is an excellent time to do it. Now, have a look out the window. The weather's not as bad as it was. Maybe it's terrible where you are, but here it's not quite so bad. It did feel like earlier on it could be the end of the world. But if you really had to, could you survive without all of your mod cons? No running water, no shops, no iPhones, no internet, nothing. Well, one company specialises in courses designed to equip people with survival skills. Lisa Fenton from Woodsmoke is a wilderness educator. Morning, Lisa.
Hi, Ian. Morning.
What does a wilderness educator mean?
Well, it means that what we do is we teach people fundamental skills of how to live in nature. So things like building shelters, cooking food over fires, making fire, natural medicines, foraging for food, this kind of thing, really.
What kind of people are coming on your course?
Oh, all sorts of people. Really, there's sort of no one type of person. I would say lots of city folk, lots of urban people who want to just do something completely different and get back to their roots in a way, I suppose. Listen,
I love computers, I love phones, I love beds with clean sheets on. It sounds hellish.
I love all those things too. It's not hellish. It's quite. I think people find it quite empowering to kind of get away from all of that for a short period of time and sort of slow down. I think technology has really increased the pace of living and really cocooned us from the natural world. And so I think more and more people feel quite disconnected from their environment, the environment they're designed to be in as humans. And it creates a bit of a draw, I think, for some people, particularly those who are a bit technologically weary, to go into the woods, learn how to look after themselves, learn how to use a knife and an axe and shape their environment, how to find water, how to purify it, how to make a shelter and a bed entirely from natural materials.
If I came for a weekend, Lisa, what would it work like? What would I have to do?
If it was just sort of a basic weekend course, an introductory course, you're looked after and well fed from that point of view, and you bring your tent and you put up your tent, but very quickly we'll get you using knives, because that's that's the tool we need to shape our environment, and we'll get you learning to create friction fire, which, whilst we don't
So
need
I like the sound of that.
Which part?
The friction fire. I've never been able to do that.
Well, I mean, it's one of those skills that's really hard to learn from a book. We've had loads of people come and say, I've been trying to learn the skill from a book and I just can't do it. And usually they're really close to actually being able to do it, and they just need tweaking a little bit, and then they get it. But it's a very achievable skill, but it's also quite a tricky skill. So, and it's a really good skill to learn from the point of view of just learning about yourself in relationship to the natural materials that you're using, how to shape them with a knife, which materials to choose, what's going to be best, how to position your body. So you're really working with nature at that point. And I mean, it's not a hugely practical skill in terms of if you're in a survival situation and deep in a wilderness and you have to make fire this way, probably something's already gone wrong and you're injured, and it might not be the most practical solution to that. But it's a great skill to just really reconnect people to nature, and that point at which they make a fire is always just, it's like a point of connection to the natural world and re-empowerment somehow. It's fantastic.
Do you kill things? Are you chasing rats and rabbits and things in the woods?
No, we don't. We don't go around killing stuff. Firstly, there's a lot of legalities around that, and secondly, there's an ethical part to it too, where people who have never learned those skills, to suddenly let them loose, running around trying to, I don't know, hit things with sticks or throw things at animals is just not what we're about at all. We'd far rather watch nature than kill it. But it is a fundamental life skill. And we do teach people, we'll give them an already dead rabbit from the gamekeeper or a pigeon or something, and they'll turn that into they'll take off the skin or the feathers and turn it into a pie and cook it over the fire.
Lisa, sorry, if people want to find out more about wood smoke, where do they go?
If you type wood smoke into Google, it'll come up, and it's www.woodsmoke.uk.com, and we're based up in the Lake District, but we also run overseas expeditions as well.
Fantastic, Lisa. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much, Lisa Fenton from Woodsmoke. If you've ever roughed it, I'm not a fan of the great outdoors. Every now and then I think it would be nice, and I end up in a tent and think, nah, I've worked hard enough. Even in the worst times, I can afford a fairly cheap hotel. 03453 009956. It's 11:45. Let's get the travel news now. Here's Liz Saul.
Thank you very much, Ian. It's not looking much better, I'm afraid. Police confirm that problem on the A38 is southbound at the Branton interchange. Lane shut because of an accident. Vans come off the road, ended up on the verge. It's causing quite a bit of congestion. Thank you to Gregory, among others, who contacted us as well. Police are at the scene. In Wednesbury, we're getting word that Wood Green Road, the A461, is partially blocked because of a two-vehicle accident at Woden Road East, and that's causing some congestion. Thank you to Jerry, who called us about that. In Smethwick, police are still dealing with an incident, and they've closed Wellington Street between Franklin Street and Woodburn Road. Warner Street in Birmingham is still shut because of an event going on at the Bradford Street, and that's going to be shut till 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's starting to look busy in Rugeley. The Charter Fair is taking place at Hagley Park. There's a parade about to get underway from Power Station Road, and that's going along Station Road, Anderson Street, Elmore Lane, Sheep Fair, Church Street, Market Street, St Paul's Road and Horse Fair, and that parade takes an hour, so till 1 o'clock, so there'll be temporary road closures there. Expect extra traffic around Sutton Coldfield. The Race for Life taking place, one that's already started and another one getting underway at 3. And there's the Chainmakers Festival at Bearmore Park in Cradley Heath, so there's road restrictions, a lot of extra traffic there. If you can update us, 08453 002288.
Hunted. We're heading to Newtown Row, we're heading to Cecil Street, we're looking for the Red Point Climbing Centre.
5 clues, 3 hours.
I can't go any farther.
How far have you gone up, Debbie?
8 feet. It feels a lot higher.
To find one person in the West Midlands.
What's your full name?
It's Emma Dacre, and I'm your Hunted.
Hunted.
With Richard Wilford.
This Sunday morning from 9, BBC WM
95.6.
Hey, and suddenly the show's nearly over. It's 12 minutes to midday. It's flown by this morning. I tell you why, because we've had so many phone calls. Doesn't it make it easier? An easier listen when it's not just me whittering on like some lonely plum. And I like it. Listen, I do like it when you call in and have a pop. OK? I kind of enjoy that. There are some presenters who don't like it. I don't want anyone to come on who's going to have a go at me. Oh, I love it. It's good sport, isn't it? It's good exercise for the brain. So never feel you can't come on and criticise me. Little bit of banter, classic bants, I believe gentlemen call it these days. 03453 009956. Last 15 minutes of the show. D-Day, cats, dogs, living in the wild, and whatever else you fancy talking about. Derek's in Droitwich. Morning, Derek.
Morning. I'm glad
What would you like to say?
The presenters. As regards that, I can think of one.
I don't want to listen. I don't want any names. They do their shows. They do their shows the way they do theirs. I do mine. Where pretty much everyone's allowed on.
Well, the one that works for your place is an hypocrite. But
I don't want to. Derek, don't name him. I don't want any little digs at other presenters. They're not here.
He
Good.
knows who I mean.
Okay, I'm sure he's losing a lot of sleep about it. Yes.
As regards the situation of D-Day and the remembrance of it, and that guy phoning up, these people are still alive who were in that conflict, and so yes, we should remember it. Celebrate is a wrong word, and we should also remember all British history, because the British are the greatest nation in the world.
Here we go. Where have you got that from?
We are. Come on, I'm pretty good at history. Tell me.
Well, no, you tell me.
Let's go back. Do you want to go back to 200 AD or something like that? Or
no, tell me why you think the British are the greatest nation in history.
We're the greatest nation in the world.
Okay, by simply saying we're the greatest nation in the world again doesn't make it fact. Tell me why you think.
No. Do you want me to? We have conquered the world 2-3 times.
Hey, that's good, isn't it? We got loads of people who weren't as well developed as us, and we killed them. Yeah, next.
No, we conquered the world.
Well, yeah, by killing people. Yeah.
I believe that before Christopher Columbus found America, that the Vikings did.
Yeah, before the Vikings found it, I believe the Native Americans had found it.
Yeah.
It wasn't. No one discovered America,
Well,
Derek.
the Red Indians were already living there.
It wasn't lost, mate.
Well, the Red Indians were already living there.
By taking over the world and ruling the world, you know, we treated people pretty badly, didn't we?
No, we don't.
Did we not?
We treated them to the
India, Pakistan. India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
When we took over in India and Pakistan, we treated them well, did we?
Yeah.
Well, how did we treat the Indians? Derek.
Pakistan was part of India.
Derek.
Right?
Derek.
Hold on. Pakistan was part of India, right?
Yeah.
Most of the trains up to about the 40s, we built the railways.
Yeah, Derek.
And we
do that.
Built them and actually, some of them now wish we were back there.
Derek. To build those railways, we treated people appallingly. Lots of people died. We paid them hardly any money. When we partitioned India,
pay them any money now.
Derek, when we partitioned India and Pakistan,
No, we didn't partition it.
Yes,
no,
we did.
We didn't.
Yes, we did.
Gandhi was killed by an Hindu.
Derek,
who was paid by the Muslims.
Derek. When we the British partitioned India and Pakistan, we gave them
we
three.
Did not. You're wrong. We partitioned it because the two religious
right.
beings
So
there,
you're just telling me we partitioned
the
it.
Hindus and the Muslims couldn't live together, and clearly,
Derek,
the Muslims paid the
Derek,
money to kill
Derek, Derek. I don't care who killed Gandhi, right? Who killed Gandhi?
No, you
who?
You want to talk to me about history?
Derek.
Because I've got.
Derek,
what's his
who?
certificates on
Calm.
history?
I know you. I'm sure you've got.
Beat me on your
I'm sure you've got so many certificates. Just calm down. Who partitioned India and Pakistan?
We did because.
Thank you. Stop. 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 Stop.
The Muslims
You just.
and the Hindus couldn't live together.
Okay, so we partitioned India and Pakistan. You've just said that. You just told me that I was. You've just told me that I was wrong for saying that we did, but we did. Okay.
Yes,
when
we asked to. We didn't
Derek,
do it for. Let's talk about we done this.
Derek.
The Romans conquered England.
I'm not talking about the Romans. I'm talking about India and Pakistan. Focus. Calm down, mate.
Still the same.
Derek, calm.
To the Muslim place. You got
Derek.
them that live rich and them that live poor.
Derek, will you calm down? And I'm going to say a phrase I don't say very often. I'm going to say
invented anything.
I'm going to say a phrase I don't.
Think they invented curries, actually. Carry on.
I'm going to say a phrase I don't say very often, and forgive me, okay? But will you shut up?
Yeah, I'm a bit faster than you, ain't I?
No, you're not. You're just a bit more annoying than me, which is something.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a bit more annoying than you.
After 5 minutes, you've agreed with me that we partitioned India and Pakistan, okay?
Yes, but you're not saying the full story because the Hindus and the Muslims couldn't live together, and that was the only way that they could, and they still couldn't live together today, anyhow. So
we gave them
were asked to partition it.
No, Derek, the only reason we partitioned it is we realised that we couldn't control such a big country anymore, such a huge expanse of India, and we wanted out. So we gave them 3 months, okay, to make one of the biggest countries in the world, India, and to create a Muslim state, Pakistan, bearing in mind most of the Muslims were on the southeast of India, and Pakistan's up in the northwest, okay?
Yeah.
So they had 3 months to move all of the Muslims to Pakistan, which is the roughest part of the Indian continent in terms of survival. And you say we treated people really, really well when we went and took over their countries. You're wrong. You're wrong. I've not even got onto slavery, Derek. We treated people so well. I've not even got onto the fact that we were the hub for slavery.
And we were enslaved by the Romans.
Derek, thank you very much for your call. I can do a history argument with the best. I spent 3 months in Pakistan. I know the history of that. 03453 009956. Noreen! Hello, Noreen!
Hi!
That was fun, wasn't it? I just needed to have a little breather after Derek there.
It's all right. I think you deserve one. It's been a lively show this morning.
Oh, man, alive! People, I love doing this show, but people do get very upset about odd things. People have been very angry that I don't like dogs. I don't like dogs, and they've gone bonkers about it.
Why don't you like dogs?
Because they're awful, horrible creatures. Cats are much better. Are we going to fall out about this?
No, we're not. We're not.
Have you got dogs?
I don't have dogs or cats, actually. I'm more of a horse person, but I don't have horses.
What's on your show today?
We're talking loads on the show today. I'm going to be joined in the studio by the director of the world's first crowdsourced feature-length film called 50 Kisses, which is going to be screened in Birmingham tonight. We're talking about young people in Wolverhampton. We're talking Epsom as well, seeing as I've got a love for horses. And the World Cup. So quite a lot happening between 12 and 2.
Excellent stuff indeed, Noreen. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a good
you.
show.
Cheers.
You're very welcome. 03453 009956. Probably a bit late to call up this show. Ian's just emailed me and saying, will it take less than 3 months to partition Derek? He was getting I think producer Jo has given me the look. I think she hated that call. That was my favourite 5 minutes. Keith's on the line. Morning, Keith.
Good morning, Sonny.
Cats and dogs, come on.
Well, I think we ought to petition Derek, but there you go.
I enjoyed that. I wish he'd shut up and listen. That's the only thing. Anyway, go on.
The thing, let me just say, it's all good to have free speech, but for crying out loud, listen to the other person's point of view as well. I mean, you know,
exactly.
If you're going to
I'm going to be quiet. What do you want to say about cats and dogs?
Well, got to be honest, we've got 4 cats. We have had dogs and we've had cats previous, and cats are a very intelligent animal.
Yep.
People underrate them. I mean, they're a very clean animal. If you watch a cat when he's had his dinner, or when he's outside, you'll see him very often grooming himself. They say, well, they're flea-ridden. Cats, to a degree, will comb their own fur and look after themselves. Even if they're in a feral situation, if they got locked out or their owners are gone and they've been abandoned, they'll look after themselves till somebody comes to find them, most times.
There's someone, Keith, who's had both cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Which are the best?
I like dogs, I like cats. I'll be honest with you, cats are very... I don't know, I like cats, to be honest with you.
The only problem I've got with cats, right, it's the only problem, is they lick their own bums.
They do, yeah.
That's weird.
They do. Yeah, but that's why they are so clean, and they do not like being dirty, do they?
They don't in the slightest. Keith, I've got to move on just because we're running out of time. Thank you very much for that. I want to squeeze in John. John, you're probably the last call on my show today. What would you like to say?
You was on about D-Day.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have a bit of history on, and by far, what we're getting too much of is football. We get it 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
And it's a load of rubbish.
Have you not got World Cup fever, John? Are you not excited?
No.
Oh.
They're overrated. They're overpaid. Give me Give me D-Day 12 months of the year of watching history.
Yeah.
And it does the young ones good to know what people went to.
I tell you what's interesting. You do make a really good point in that perhaps, and this is a conversation for another day, but perhaps we are looking, or our young people are looking at the wrong role models. They're calling the wrong people heroes, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. Because they're overrated. They're overpaid.
John, listen, I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much indeed. That's a great call to end on. And he does make a good point. You know, kids call Wayne Rooney and John Terry heroes. Heroes? Really? People who are paid £500,000 a week and don't really seem to do a lot and have a bit of an attitude? Those kind of people are heroes? When, let's be honest, the last 2 days, we've seen a lot of coverage of real heroes, haven't we? People who actually have done heroic acts and have put their lives literally on the line. Hey, listen, I enjoyed that this morning. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate all of your calls. And I do like it when it gets feisty. I can take it as hard as it comes. Right, I shall shut up.
Waking up the West Midlands with the latest news, sport, weather and travel updates. Pete Morgan at Breakfast is back Monday morning from 6.
The voice of Birmingham and the Black Country.
BBC WM 95.6.
It's bang on 12 o'clock. Let's get the news now with Nicole Pullman.
A Wolverhampton pub doorman is fighting for his life after being stabbed in the early hours of this morning. Police were called to the Harp Inn on Walsall